Hey, you there. Welcome to the show before the show, where I check to make sure everything's working. I'm your host, Patrick Marlette, and I'm getting the chat up on my phone as I speak. What's cool, though, is that I'm going to be retiring this device soon. I'm probably still going to use my phone as a phone, but I got a secondary monitor coming. How great is that? Finally. Finally, a secondary monitor to make life just a little bit easier. I'm extremely stoked for that, though. Everything appears to be checking out, which is good. Yurlok is a real interesting one, I gotta say. I'm nervous that it's giving away a little too much value. And like red, black, green, these are all pretty popular colors. You know, it's missing the most popular one, but, you know, white, no one was too concerned with. But those other colors, I mean, even just filtering that into generic for an instant or an X spell with generic in the cost is going to be really good for your opponents. So trying to find neat ways to leverage that ourselves is going to be the real trick. It's actually taking a moment just to research a handful of things, and like, oddly enough, the eggs are looking really appealing. I mean, the actual eggs, like the shadow whatever. Let me look at their names again. Obviously, chromatic star, chromatic sphere, like that's what people normally think of, but I mean like mossfire egg and shadow blood egg, and there doesn't appear to be a full set of eggs, but yeah, those eggs, we got 2 of the 3 we need. Those would be kind of cool, I think, for filtering, drawing, using mana so we don't get hurt by mana, at least peeling through the list, because I imagine that's what we're going to have trouble with for the most part. Just peeling through the list as we go along, trying to find our solutions, which we'll talk about. And hint, if you're in the link in the description looking at the list, then you can see I already have a handful of ideas for this deck. I'm not sure that all of them are going to be in play, and we'll probably take a poll in just a second to see what you Yurlokians would like to play with. But I'll tune in with you guys, see how you're holding up. I'm having a glass of tequila because why not? I don't think I have to work too much after this, so enjoy myself now, other than make a dinner for myself. But yeah, it's 5 o'clock here. What time is it for you, and what are you up to? One of my favorite commanders. Let's go. We'll see. This might be one of my favorites. Who knows? I mean, I was definitely interested when it came out. I mean, for obvious reasons. It's an outlet, right? It's an outlet and it's ramp. So it eliminates 2 problems that you'll commonly find in cEDH, like, where do I get all the mana to cast these lovely spells, coupled with, how am I killing my opponents? So you potentially could with this, right? So long as you're allowed to switch phases and everyone just eats it. But we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. Hello, says Ruben Smith. Hello, Ruben Smith. Swordman Josh, hello, finally my first actual live stream. Damn. Normally I always get them after the fact. Yeah. Thanks for joining the live stream. I'm glad you can make this one. This should be a good one. Last week's was really popular for some reason. Scorpion God. I didn't think that many people would be interested in seeing Scorpion God. It actually turned out better than I thought it would. Those are my favorite decks, the pleasant surprises. But that one actually came out pretty good. And if you're on the Discord, you'll know I've been chatting with some of our viewing audience there on Mersil. Because to be perfectly honest, I've not ever thought about building for Mersil. I've looked over it, I'm like, this is really cool, but I've never really given it much thought. But Necrotic Ooze is one of my favorite cards, and Mersil's sort of like a Necrotic Ooze. Sort of, right? Obviously, there's a couple limitations to how Mersil works, but we're not doing that today. Although I think that will likely be our next cold brew, though next week is a brew master segment, so same as the week prior. And by the way, if you're on the Patreon, if you're a patron and you want to participate in this weekend's Brew Wars Live, be sure to queue in over on the Discord. It should say Livestream Q is the title, and you'll add an emoji to the top comment. I'm sure this is confusing for anyone watching not on the Discord or not on the Patreon, but you'll add yourself there, and that's how we'll queue for this weekend. So if you haven't yet, be sure to do that. If you want to join on the live streams, I plan on making Brew Wars, and why I'm buying a secondary monitor is that I enjoy doing this a lot. I enjoy the conversation of doing a live stream, but also being able to play with you guys is fantastic, our patrons in particular. But if you want to partake of the live streams and you want to play on the show, just any tier of Patreon member gets to play. So that benefit is, I don't know if I've written it in the tiers, but it's an official perk. I've been wanting to get the streams to a level of quality that meets my standards, and that's why it's taken so long, and that's why I've been so excited for switching to Verizon and getting a steady stream quality here. If you didn't watch this weekend's episode, it looked really good this time, and I'm proud to say that. It actually looked good. There was a lot of troubleshooting between Mac, my software, the internet, but it's finally at a point where I feel like, okay, this can be a consistent thing. That's why I'm getting the monitor. So now I can monitor the game, obviously, but also organize our queue for players, because we're not always going to have guests on, though I'm thinking it would be fun to invite. I know a lot of other channels watch this channel sometimes. If you want to participate, let me know. You can just reach out via the email. If you have a reputable channel or you do cEDH and you want to play in the channel, love to help support your channel and love to have a few games and love to have a few rounds. And that's really the next step for Brew Wars Live. I kind of want to incorporate drinking games. I don't know how good it should be fun for the audience. It should be fun for the players. Make sure you're of age, but it could be fun. I think that would be fun. I don't know. There's got to be another element to it, and let me know what you would like to see in a Brew Wars Live. What would tickle you pink to have on a live stream gameplay? And I would love to provide that. But leave that in the comments down below after this video, and of course during the live chat, because I'd love to have that conversation. At any rate, I personally think Jarlock is more casual, or at best casually competitive. Commander's Commander. I think, let me read the rest of this. So I'm looking forward to seeing your direction you'll take it for competitive deck. Yeah, I think you can kind of make. Are you a competent player? I guess we'll start there. Are you a good player? Like, do you know what you're doing roughly? There's so many variables to Commander that it's hard to really ever call this game competitive. There's only so much you can control and dictate. I mean, I say it all the time, but like I've been playing a lot of games recently, and turn order, who's playing first, what decks are at the table, all these things play such a huge part in the game, where I feel like a deck like Yurlok can definitely stand a fighting chance. Like, are you a competent player? Are you able to pilot this correctly? Are you able to find the solutions you need if they were baked into your deck to handle any given situation? I think that there's enough versatility here, because again, it's not like Yurlok is doing much that is demanding on the player. It's just making mana and doing mana burn, right? And those are pretty easy elements to work with. Whereas certain other lists, they have a lot more prerequisites to pop off, unlike a Kenrith or unlike a Cody or some of these, simpler commanders that are 4 or 5 color pairings that just have value, that just do value. Yurlok is kind of in that category. It's just like a value commander. So I think we can get value out of Yurlok, and Jund is a good part of the color pie to be in too. So I've got a good feeling we're going to get there. I try not to distinguish power levels or casual versus competitive too much outside of conversations with you guys. Obviously the game show previously and our community polls. It's fun to see how people consider cards. But I don't really see this game that way. Again, this is a casual format, and in my mind, Commander's always just been Commander, but we do have these labels, so I try to label this show accordingly. I feel like half the decks we showcase here would probably not be great for what would be considered a casual table. So that's why I labeled them as such. But if you're a competent player, you understand the deck, you should be able to pilot to success in most cases. Hello there. I'm upset that Josh and Jimmy aren't even on the command zone anymore. I'm upset that Josh and Jimmy aren't on the command zone anymore. I don't know. Do we mean like a extra turn sort of deal? They seem to have realized that gameplay gets just excessive views. Like people kind of turn to YouTube for gameplay videos and obviously deck tech tutorials more often than not, and they seem to be doing that now. I've watched one or two extra turns. I watched one extra turns where a guy was playing a mono red deck that just popped off. Zada, which is commonly considered like a high powered or competitive commander, but damn, he fucking just ripped everyone to pieces. It was crazy to watch. I'm like, shit, this is like really, this guy's just doing him dirty. And they felt bad for him early in that game because he'd been drawing poorly. And you've seen it on this channel, like Ernesto. I fucking got him good with an opposition agent, but that doesn't mean you're out of the game. And like that dude like killed it. But I don't know if that's the case or not. That's sad to hear. I don't really watch too much MTG content these days. I watch a lot of motorcycle, car, and camera videos if I'm on YouTube, and gaming videos. That's usually how my time is divided. And I can recommend some good resources for you all if you want to watch motorcycle, car, gaming, or camera videos. Specifically analog cameras. Okay. I was just teaching my mother how to play EDH. She really likes mono green Stompy, apparently. That's awesome. That's awesome. I don't think my mom would enjoy EDH at all. Mana doubler and tripler, pain doubler, triple ER. Is this like something we want? A mana doubling? Yeah, we should look into that. That's a good angle, Prime Shifter. I think it would make sense to consider. Well, I mean, that's the issue. Is like it's like when this is going to be, in my opinion, playing something like a Belby, where your opponents should be thinking, how can I manipulate this mana? In the instance of Belby, they can sort of dictate when they get it. But mana doubler is like, is it like mana flare or no? Mana flare is one that just gives you mana or doubles your mana. I forget. But I do know what you mean. But if they see that enchantment or they see that buff, let's just call it a totem, they'll hopefully, if they're smart, play around it. So my concern is that I don't give too much value to my opponents, although I can see where you're coming from. That's why I titled this with a chance of mana burn, because I'm a little nervous that this is just too much value to be allotting to our opponents. But I feel like they're probably going to take damage more oftentimes than not. We'll see. I mean, this is one of those decks that requires a lot of trial and error. And if you played Yurlok, maybe you can speak to this. How often has your opponent, like, say you've tapped Yurlok 10 times that game. You didn't win that game, but how many times was that mana leveraged by your opponents in a meaningful way, right? Out of the 10 times you've activated them. I'm curious to know those numbers. And Jen's kid just super chatted. Thank you, Jens. I really appreciate that. Good morning from Hawaii. Hey, we got another Hawaiian fan. I love your content and love piling the last Fiddlebender. Yes! You have no idea how difficult it is for me to not play Fiddlebender. I've got an affinity for mono white. It's not the only color I play by any stretch, but I enjoy playing mono white, and I never thought this day would come. That we'd get a pod commander in white for artifacts, which is honestly my favorite thing to fool with. Usually if we're drafting, like if we'll play Justin's place, we'll draft cube. I usually draft up artifacts because I love manipulating artifacts. So getting to do so in a commander setting with a pod commander that cares about artifacts is the best experience. And it's one of those decks where I've gotten it to the point, if you've been following my recent updates for the deck, there aren't that many flex spots. It's really just finding better combos, more efficient combos to hit, better utilities, and potentially better stacks. But it's just outperforming my expectations every time I play it. It's outperformed my expectations. I really love it. I knew it was good, and even before the deck, I was kind of calling it the best in mono white. This is really before I really knew how damn good it was, but I knew it would be deliberate. I knew it would deliver on a game plan, and I really enjoy it. So Jens, I'm happy to hear that another person is playing Oswald. It's easily my favorite deck right now. It will likely be my favorite deck for a long while. I really love the deck. It's super, super fun. And every time someone drops Collector Oof against you and they're like, I got you with the oof, you're like, well, okay, I'm glad you think that. Let me get my Eye of Vecna. Let's let everyone else mellow out. I'll still draw cards. Let me just get the value pieces that don't give a shit about activating, because Oswald is not an artifact. But, you know, keep the collector oof. But yeah, it's too fun. It's too fun seeing how people try to handle Oswald. I'm sure my pals will get a grip on how it operates, but even still, it's like, what is this odd value engine? It doesn't always feel like a priority threat. Anyway, I'll stop talking about it. Scourge Familiar Asmodeus and Necrotic Ooze is quickly becoming my favorite combo. Thanks for that, Pat. Hamahimana. Yeah, you can tell it's in this list, right? I want to execute on it, so I'm slamming it in every deck I can. But that Necrotic Ooze combo is one of my favorites, and that's actually, it kind of spurred on this idea for a new segment for the show. This month, if you've noticed, has been predominantly all live streams. I just wanted to test and get this down right and make sure that these live streams, I mean, you know, if you've been following the live streams, you know I've been trying to perfect this. So that's what this whole month has been for me. But I want to do a segment tackling the best combo cards and the best plus Bs for them. I'm not explaining this properly. I want to do a segment on combo cards and various applications in different parts of the color pie. I think Necrotic Ooze will probably be the first one I tackle. Anyways, I'd love to be on or have you on my channel, Pat. Did a recent episode of Mons and cEDH and nice. If you're on the Discord, tag me on the Discord. I need to adjust my settings there. Apparently people are having issues with messaging me, but feel free to just tag me in like the about section, the top section, and that'll work. There's also a work email in the description here. I have a casual deck of this to punish all the infinite mana decks at my LGS that don't always have an outlet, since they are a bit more casual group. A lot of fun and interested in conversion. Me too, Luke Shearer, me too. That is so true. All Commander is casual. Yeah, to an extent. I mean, obviously, you know, someone with the best cards, and that's not even the right way to put it. Certain lists thrive off of certain cards. Like, not every list is going to need X card, although a majority of lists do want a Mana Crypt or a Soul Ring, right? But there are certain instances where decks won't operate with those cards. But if you have... I'm having so many brain farts today. Apologies. If you're a competently minded player, you have the best cards you can work with in said list for said strategy, and your opponents are playing at their best as well, those are the games I enjoy. And you know, you can be playing at any level of play. I do think it's important that we do self-describe our decks sometimes, because folks come to a game table with expectations of what they'll be playing, and you don't want to stomp people out of the game, which can happen, but it's interesting. I mean, I play with adults. We all know we're playing competitively, or at least, you know, decks that are tuned finely. I can't find the words today, but yeah, I think it's just a format to me. Commander's just Commander to me. Jen's Kid says blue is for lazy people. Pat, you got a bike? So I've been considering getting a motorcycle. Is that what you're referring to? I have a bike that I'm selling. I bought a skateboard, which I'm relearning, because I used to skate in Hawaii when I lived in Hawaii, and this was before my teens. So getting on a skateboard again, me and my girlfriend were skating just the other day. I'm surprised that I didn't eat dirt. Like I just went for it, and I kind of remembered it, but I was never really good at skateboarding. In Hawaii, skateboarding and rollerblading were like my favorite things, and I really loved rollerblading. I haven't picked up rollerblading. It's cool now. Again, I remember when I moved to Virginia, like, it was apparently the dorkiest thing, and that sort of like put me off of doing that. But don't let other people dictate what you enjoy. Maybe I'll get rollerblades too. What do you ride, Pat? I'm limited. Oh, I want to get a Husqvarna. I don't know which model I want, like the Vitpulin or the Svartpulin. I don't know how to pronounce the other model variant. I need to go to a dealer and check them out. It's a little crazy to put that on my budget, because we've got a car to deal with anyways. So it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. This is a move out of the city kind of deal for me. But we should probably start soon. Let me just make sure that we're all in here and we're all alive. I'm going to quickly zoom through here And in the interesting comments, I'll read aloud. Nyx Bloom Ancient. Yeah, Prime Shifter with a Nyx Bloom Ancient idea. That's kind of cool. Mana Reflection, Nyx Bloom Ancient, and Mana Burn was insignificant 90% of the time. 2 Mana Reflection, 3 Nyx Bloom Ancient, and Mana Burn was insignificant 90% of the time, says Patrick Gregorian. I feel like you really just want to get to that state where you're doing the infinite, right? Because then, at that point, they will need to have some form of solution that will allow them to funnel that mana, or they're dead, right? So we'll see. I'm thinking, that's why I'm saying like a chance of mana burn in the title. It's not just a play on words. I do think that mana burn is probably going to be a sub-strategy to this. I'm really just looking at that as like, that's a thing that happens, but this guy makes mana, and that's good. We want that. I really like your channel, bro. I'm going to follow you more closely. Thank you, Special Agent Oh So Sexy. Dose in the Falling Leaf brings itself. Yes. So, Salty Reefer, if you're looking at the deck, I'm using the Conqueror's Flail for much the same reason. But there's City of Solitude and Docin of the Falling Leaf. We may incorporate these. I think those make sense. Like, you can Green Sun Zenith, Docin out, and that would make a whole lot of sense. Or like a Time of Need, Docin to your hand and cast it. I do think playing Docin kind of makes sense here, so we'll probably play for that. I've never had a mono white deck I stuck with, but Fiddlebender is tempting. Tom P, definitely proxy it, like just make a workable version so you can test it with your pals. It does. I'm still finding new lines of play. Like I had a bunch lined up for the tutorial, and they're helpful. I think those are good lead-ins to win conditions. But I just added Manifold Key because I had some games where Voltaic Key pulled so much weight, and it didn't feel like it would, but I was able to just rip roar and execute on combos much easier with Voltaic Key because its ability with coupled with a Mage Right Stone or coupled with 1000-Year Elixir or any other new untap enchant artifact, which we're only hoping for, is really useful. So test it first, play around with all the effects, look for the synergies. You find more the more you play it. I run a list with Yurlok. Definitely run City of Solitude. Shia, my concern is the City of Solitude business is that because it's universal. I'm pretty certain that like City of Solitude makes it so no one can play on opposing people's turns. Maybe even something like a defense grid might be better, right? Just taxes in general. I don't really want this to be a stacks deck, but we can talk about that and the pros and cons of that. I run I heard Mana Burn, so I'm here. Thank you, Paul. Dude, when I saw the title, I got super excited. I actually played Turlock Burn. Let's see here. I thought the title was a reference to Cloudy with it is a reference to Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. It had no gameplay implications. It is simply a reference to that amazing film, but it is also implying that we may not shoot for Mana Burn. I changed it. There were two other titles before I went with the title you saw. I changed the thumbnail last minute. I'm like, nah, this makes more sense. All right, I think we're all here. I think we're all ready. I think we're good to go. I'm still on the page of these eggs. But yeah, let's jump into this one. Welcome back to the 99, where we're focused on brewing a better competitive commander. I'm your host, Patrick Marlatt, and this is Cold Brew, where I take you from start to finish on a brand new deck. And today, we have Yurlok of Scorch Thrash. Yes, you heard me right. His name is that menacing and corny. For 1 generic, 1 black, 1 red, 1 green, legendary creature, Vishanu Shaman. Maybe useful, maybe not, I don't know. A player, Vigilance, I should start there, 4/4 body. A player losing unspent mana causes that player to lose that much life. And if you don't know, that's essentially what Mana Burn was. It's like a legacy effect in the game that's no longer used, but essentially anytime you had unspent mana as a step or phase ended, you would lose life based off of how much mana you had. This is bringing it back in a really cool way. I was really excited when this came out in Commander Legends. I just never took the opportunity to build for it. Thank you for joining me for this one. For 1 generic, tap it. Each player adds Jund. Okay, so you see what's happening here. You see what Yurlok wants to do. Will it be successful? Well, do I have cards to talk to you about? Initially, when I looked at doing Yurlok, all I was thinking to myself was, I think initially I called this Ace Up the Sleeve, because I wanted to do a deck that was just centered around Acererak, right? Like doing fun stuff with Acererak. Because I had a real swell time brewing Acererak with you guys and playing it. So much so that I almost thought I would give Mono Black a chance again. But nah, I probably won't. It's tough. It's tough winning with Mono Black, let me just state. But Acererak was such a fun build that I kind of want to brew a list that was dedicated for him. But I'm like, well, Yurlok can do a lot more than Ace, but just to cover the Ace combo first, and then I want to discuss the Yurlok combo, the cleanest one I can think of. But Ace, for 2 generic, 1 black, legendary creature, zombie, wizard, 5/5 body. When he enters the battlefield, he or she, I don't know. If you haven't completed Tomb of Annihilation, never step foot, never venture forth into Tomb of Annihilation. Return Acererak, the Archlich, to its owner's hand and venture into the dungeon. I will not read the bottom ability, but you'll notice we're in green. Oh my god, Alurin. For 2 generic double green, any player may play a creature with a total casting cost of 3 or less whenever he or she could play an instant and without paying its casting cost. Wow. That seems like a combo with Acererak, because it is. And it's a decent one. You are giving your opponents the ability to do the same thing. But it's funny, shout out to Fernando from Dead on Board. When we were playing this previous weekend, he had built a list that was focused on this combo. It was Kodama Timna, and it played really well. He won a few games with Alurin and Acererak. And obviously, in a list dedicated for that, you're using more creatures, and I'm not sure we're going to go that route, but that's initially what I wanted to do. But then, we're on Yurlok. We should probably have a chance of mana burning people out. So instead, we also add Seeker of Skybreak as an additional combo. So for 1 generic, 1 green, I don't own a 7th edition foil. I can't imagine what they're worth, although I do want to flex at least digitally. Creature Elf, 2/1 body. Tap, untap target creature. Okay, well that's a little bit more mana burn. But what if you added Oswald's favorite card, Rings of Brighthearth? So for 3 generic artifact, whenever you activate an ability, if it isn't a mana ability, you may pay 2. If you do copy that ability, you may choose new targets for the copy. So what you would do is tap Yurlok, float 3 mana. You'll go ahead and tap Seeker of Skybreak, use Rings of Brighthearth to copy that effect, and then double it, targeting Seeker of Skybreak this time. So both Seeker and Yurlok are tapped. They're both untapped now. We used 2 of the 3 mana we had from Yurlok, which means we have 1 open. Oh, we'll pay for Yurlok's ability. Oh, we'll keep doing that same thing. And hopefully mana burn everyone out. You'll note that this is very much a sorcery speed combo. So that is problematic for this. If you have these elements out, obviously you could manipulate something like Battle Mage's Bracers for much the same effect. And you can actually do this instantaneously too and get around the summoning sickness, right? I say this is sorcery speed ability. You're not going to, if you drop Seeker of Skybreak, someone will kill her if you have Rings of Brighthearth and Seeker out. They should. So you're going to have to do it on your turn. That's what I mean by sorcery. You could do this off turn, but there's no way you let someone resolve that and let her get unsummoning sick and then pass for some reason. Battle Mage's Bracers. It's on the sideboard because I don't know if this is a thing we're doing, but it could be. 2 generic, 1 red, artifact equipment, equipped creature has haste. Oh, great. And I did the math. If you have Yurlok down and you are playing Seeker of Skybreak, playing Battle Mage's Bracers, it will cost you a grand total of 6 mana to get the job done. To also use Yurlok's mana while doing that, but 6 mana in total. So you can do this instantaneously. Whenever an ability of a equipped creature is activated, if it isn't a mana ability, you may pay 1. If you do, copy that ability, you may choose new targets for the copy. So same story with Illusionist Bracers, except you don't need to pay mana for this. I happen to like Battle Mage Bracers just a little bit more because of the haste enabling, but let me state, I don't know if either are good enough. However, I will also say that Yurlok, producing this much mana, kind of makes me think that he'll be good with equipment. Like, this seems like a commander that will probably relish tossing on really good equipment here and there, because you have the mana for it. At least a sword or two, like a Sword of Fire and Ice. That seems pretty good. The added protection, the added damage, the draw. I mean, you're not always going to activate him for mana, especially if you're falling behind. So maybe there's a slight angle that way too. But I do like that effect here. And of course, it was mentioned in the comment section, Necrotic Ooze, Asmodeus, Archfiend, as well as Scourge Familiar. We have the Buried Alive pile in here, the classic, the unforgettable. Draw your deck. And it's very easy to do, provided you have at least 3 cards in hand. You can draw your deck with Necrotic Ooze, Asmodeus, and Scourge Familiar in your graveyard. Trust me. Lastly, we have Witherbloom Apprentice, because why not? Chain of Smog. I've never done this. I've never shot myself in the foot this way. But I'm tempted. Particularly if we're going to run City of Solitude and Dosen, excuse me. We're not in Azorius. However, lastly, I thought that this was really cute. Very last minute. I'm like, hey, maybe we play with this. Phyllis Broker of Blood, 5 generic, triple black, legendary, creature, demon, 8/8, flying. Whenever you lose life, draw that many cards. It also has an ability that makes you lose life and potentially kill things. Maybe we use that. That seems like a good draw utility for a guy like Yurlok. But I'm going to stop there. I'm going to check in with you guys, see what you think of my ideas for this deck so far. I do think that it has potential with those combo lines that I've just illustrated. I don't know if they are the best to incorporate. I don't know what will be the best to incorporate. However, I do want to build upon the synergies for this deck first and foremost and see where we go from there. Okay. Let's see here. Price of Glory is better alternative to City of Solitude. Not only does it allow you... I feel like we were getting somewhere, but that... Atticus, your comments were cut off. Are we going to Jund it out? Yes. Yes, we will. Ah, nice. I put Acer Actalure in my Dina list. Seems like a good plan. What happens with Yurlok and Horizon Stone? Let's see if someone answers that. Horizon Stone will filter remaining mana into colorless and bank it, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, Thornbite Staff finally has a relevant creature type in the command zone. Seems like it could be abused here too. Oh, Shaman, you're right. Yeah. Whenever a creature dies, you may untap the... I don't know if it's a May or you're allowed to. Let me look at this really quick. But there's... Thornbite Staff is a tribal equipment, and it's shaman equipment, which means that whenever you cast a shaman or put one into play, you may attach Thornbite Staff to it. So this cheats around its equip cost of 4, which is pretty shite. But whenever a creature is put in a graveyard from play, untap this creature. It's not a May, so maybe there's something we can do here to kill things. Mind you, though, you are competing with the fact that you need to tap this to do the 1 damage to any target. I don't know. Name the combo, and then we'll consider it, right? Yurlok, Leyline of Abundance, and Sword of Prunes. I think that I like the... Man, I don't know. I was looking at Leyline of Abundance and Sword of Prunes. They're very costly, right? Whereas something like Seeker of Skybreak and Rings of Brighthearth is less demanding on us. Something like Sword of Prunes and Leyline of Abundance... Leyline is good, just... by itself, right? But I don't find Sword to be very good. I almost feel like an Umbral Mantle effect is better. Mind you, you do need to contend with the mana that you're gaining that could potentially kill you. Whereas Sword of Prunes, I think the equip cost is not 0, so you can just shift the equipment around provided you still have a creature left other than Yurlok to go ahead and reduce the mana you have floating in your pool so you don't die, right? I'm a little iffy on that one, but I definitely know what you mean. I looked over that one. Yeah, so it wouldn't be a good card with him then. With Lithoform, would Lithoform work as well in place of Brighthearth? Lithoform Engine does require you to tap, but we can look at it really quick. Lithoform Engine. I think it's just a one-off. It is. No, we needed to not be tapping. Use Braids of Fire. Dare you. Alright, well, let's start adding cards then. Umbral Mantle. I see Umbral Mantle there. You know what? I've always wanted to use Braids of Fire. So we need all of the instant speed rummage. I'm going to put this on the sideboard for now. I have a foil copy laying around that I've always wanted to play, so let's see if Braids of Fire. Well, there we go. There we go. But let's see. What else you guys got for me? Did you add Mana Web or War's Toll to force players to tap their lands? Not quite yet. We're getting there, Sucrose Mother. But if we want to go a Staxy route, it's not like we're not making mana. We could play something big like that. I mean, those cards aren't too expensive, mana value-wise, but they're up there. And it's something we can do. I now see we're strictly powerfully play here. Kind of. Horizon Stone will protect you from Yurlok. What? If you guys haven't seen this one, it's a bit of an oddity. Do you want to use it? If you would lose unspent mana, it's a replacement effect. Because it's a replacement effect, the mana's never leaving your mana pool, right? So mana burn wouldn't occur. So yes, what is being stated is accurate. It becomes colorless instead. So you have you'll have all the mana you need to filter into Yurlok, right? From then on out. And if someone breaks the Horizon Stone, well then Yurlok, well rather if someone breaks Yurlok, which is the more likely play I guess, then you wouldn't need to worry about mana burn, right? If someone breaks the Horizon Stone, then you will need to worry about mana burn. I don't know how much you're going to have to worry about it, but yeah, potentially. Use Staff of Domination if you don't have mana left over. Staff of Domination might be the better choice here, gang, if you're curious. Staff of Domination. Well, so the thing with Staff of Domination is it just leans on you playing for a separate combo than the mana burn, right? Where Seeker of Skybreak is like, I'm going to use Yurlok to kill you guys with Rings of Brighthearth. So it's A plus B plus C. Staff is saying, you need to generate untap target creature, untap Staff of Domination. That's 4, and then you also need to plug 1 into Yurlok to tap for 3. That's quite a bit. I think we need something to like a Ley Line of Abundance with something else to get the job done. You could just add Staff of Domination as a post-infinite mana strategy, although I think that Yurlok being an outlet himself is enough. I could be wrong. Spectral Searchlight could be cute in this deck, maybe in addition. Spectral Searchlight. Spectral Searchlight. Let me just state that I think it would be really cool to incorporate not all, but a majority of the potential one-off untap effects. I also think it would be really cool to incorporate a lot of the eggs. I also think it would be really cool to incorporate... we're going to need a lot of fast mana. But I also want to incorporate... I just lost my train of thought. Man, I'm having a great day. Take what I said, though, and run with it. I'm trying to... we want equipment. This is like Light Voltron. Is that where I was going? Sure. I want to do some equipment in here. Because we have mana to do that. We can just do that. Why not do that? Choose a player. That player adds 1 mana. Yeah, it's pretty gross. There's also the other one that untaps off turn and you can give people mana. I forget what that one's called. Something Bell. Something Bell. This is sort of the same thing, but maybe even better. It's got a goblin on it. I don't remember what the card's called. It was from I feel like it was from either a commander-specific set or Battle Bond. I forget. Let's see here. Go Yurlok Land Destruction. Maybe, yeah, that wouldn't be horrible. Staff of Domination. Is Gemstone Array better than Horizon Stone? Gemstone Array better than Horizon Stone? I mean, my thing is, if we have a way to just filter the mana, then it doesn't hurt us, right? So, like, if we have the Sword of Fire and Ice, I've mentioned this already. If you have Sword of Fire and Ice, then you could just pay mana and put your mana into there instead, right? Just because it costs 3 to equip. So, like, even if you don't use the mana, you can just be like, oh, I'll re-equip this to Yurlok, and then everyone loses life, if that's what you want to do. You have a Sword of Fire and Ice equipped to something, so you might as well be swinging that something for a draw and to zap something. But it's possible. It's a thing you can do. Remove a charge counter from Gemstone Array. Yeah. So, I mean, you make an odd amount of mana, but if you have excess, like, it doesn't matter if you lose a little bit of life. This is kind of a cool way to filter mana. I don't know if we need that, though, right? Like, if we go to the sub route of having just decent equipment, then we can just filter the mana into the equip cost, right? if we're worried about, if we want to funnel it into something to drop big bomby things, then yeah, that's something we could do as well. But that's a separate victory chime. Thank you. This is one I was thinking of instead. Right. So a player of your choice adds generic, so it's less useful, right? For the most part, giving them a color, like you can just pick a color that's off for them. But you get to do this every single turn, which is kind of cute. It is from Battle Bond. Look at that. But it was reprinted. Commander 2021, apparently. There's a copy of this floating about from Commander 20. No one's using it. I don't think anyone's on this card. But it is a thing you can do. If you would like. Holy shit. Billy Mays says, good game, dog. Thank you, Billy Mays. I hope that we produce a decent game out of our boy Yurlok here. But I'm really stoked to see this one finalized. Again, we're just theory crafting here. And thank you for working with me on this. I love the suggestions and like seeing through whatever you guys are suggesting here, because I haven't seen half of these cards. But Scepter and Vitalize, yeah, something like that. Wait up. I mean, I really wish there was a dramatic reversal somewhere in Jun's arsenal, but there's not. So, for shame. For shame. Let me look at the Vitalize. If you don't know, it's a there's Mobilize and Vitalize, and they're both 1 CMC effects that untap all your creatures. So it's just a cool way to get repeated value out of this spell in tandem with Isochron Scepter. I run that in you bunch of Yurlok. It's good. It's a good one. Nicholas Jeffrey suggested Mana Barbs is fun in this deck. Make all the mana hurt. Make all the mana hurt. Mana Barbs. God, every time when I hear the name Barbs, I just think of Stranger Things for some reason. Was there a Barb? Was there a Barbara in that show? 3 generic, 1 red enchantment. Whenever a player taps a land for mana, Mana Barbs deals 1 damage to that player. Don't ever take a trip to the Upside Down. Barbara, Pit Fighter. Whenever a player taps a mana... Make all the mana hurt. That wouldn't work with Mass Land Destruction. Does Treasure Vault make it as a land here cheeky? You could. And you mean like as a way to filter your mana. No, I don't think that's too cheeky. I have sort of a generic Tainted Pact mana setup here. If we find that we want to put in Treasure Vault, we can. But it wouldn't be unheard of. I don't think it's ridiculous. Never mind on Scepter and Emerald Charm. Only untaps 1 permanent. Well, I really don't mind that though. Like I don't mind the idea. We don't need to untap everything. Obviously, if we do like go that Leyline of Abundance route, all of our dorks will tap for much more. I don't know how many dorks we're going to be incorporating. Our guy is going to be 4 to put down, so we're definitely going to need to add a few, coupled with fast mana, coupled with the Elvish Spirit Guide, Simian Spirit Guide, all the ramp we can get to get the ball rolling on that. But everything else should just be filtering through our deck to various solutions. And I do think we need to reduce the amount of combos that I've inserted here for maybe 2 sound strategies. What about taxing effects like Rurik Thar? Punish the blue players. Punish the blue players. Punish them. If you guys have never seen this guy, he's pretty dope. And this is its own commander. You'll see people playing Rurik Thar, but whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, Rurik Thar deals 6 damage to that player. This is an interesting way to punish players' life total. And moreover, not even just blue players, but people relying on ad nauseum, which is typically, they're going to have blue in their list, right? So, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a thing you could do as like a reanimate target. I don't know if it really plays in tandem with what Yurlok is doing. I think something like Avilis is probably a better reanimate target for us because we just want to find our own solutions and dictate how the game goes, control the game a little bit more than our opponents. If going full artifacts, how about contamination effect as disruption and stuff like tectonic instability? So these are land affecting cards. If you've never heard of, I think I just sold my contamination. But this is a black enchantment. There you go. 2 generic, 1 black. During your upkeep, sacrifice a creature or sacrifice contamination. So you will need some form of engine or something to keep this alive. You don't want to get rid of Yurlok. Doubtful. But whenever land is tapped for mana, it produces black instead, right? So there's an interesting way to thwart people. Lists that care about... Staxy lists that care about mass creature production. maybe I would consider this. And there's a couple in black, and Bitter Blossoms is like the first one that comes to mind for most people. You don't need to keep this alive forever, but you do need to bear in mind that this will go away ultimately. But the other one you suggested there, Tectonic, this is a red spell, really good art too, and foil from Invasion. It's gone up in price, I feel. I don't remember it being $11. Whenever land enters the battlefield, tap all lands its controller controls. Now, mind you, Tectonic Instability, if they see this and they have to, they will tap out and float their mana in advance, right? So that they don't have to contend with this, especially if they're using a fetch land to get something else. That does limit them, though, right? But bearing in mind that we're also giving them mana, so it's like, are we really affecting their mana base if we're just giving them Jund? And who's to say that, you know, they're going to really be able to make total use of that Jund mana? But also bear in mind that, again, those are very popular colors, and that's 3 mana off turn, and by my count, Ad Nauseam is only 5, double black. I mean, this is really the catalyst that gets the ball rolling in many, many, many a deck, right? So if they're conscious and you have Tectonic Instability, you've played it out. If you give them any mana off turn, they're still going to be able to leverage a rock and like the one swamp or, you know, underground sea or whatever they fetched for to leverage Ad Nauseam, provided you've given them some form of mana. Land hate is difficult to work with. In my opinion, so many cEDH players are on fast mana, in other words, artifacts, that land hate doesn't really work unless it's mass land destruction. And we do have that here. Red has it. Not some of my favorite effects. They're a little sluggish compared to the Ravages of War and the Armageddon. But they exist. So, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to go to mass destruction route. Or mass stacks, land stacks route. Because I have stacks problems if we go that route. Also consider Storage Matrix and Tectonic Instability. I don't know if we're going to go that route. Here's what I want to do. 99 thoughts on Willow Satyr. Okay. Whoa, I am behind on your comments. I'll look at Willow Satyr, and then I want to talk to you about something I want to do. You may choose not to untap Willow Satyr during your untap step. Game control of target legendary creature as long as you control. Well, that's something cool to Rings of Bright Hearth, right? It's like your own Gilded Drake, except it's a little bit more expensive, a little bit slower. I love the art. Let me just start there. I think if you got $215 to throw down, you're probably just better saving that for a PS5, right? This isn't going to give you the kind of return on investment that you want from it because it's a little slow. However, if you already own one, and this is all because it's reserve list. If you already own one, I think it's a fine card. I wouldn't necessarily recommend playing it unless you were playing something like Samut. A commander that enables haste, or deck strategy that enables haste often. Like if we're playing for Lightning Greaves, like we needed Lightning Greaves, which we might actually run, then this is okay, but I'm not sure it's good for this list. In general, I think it's okay. I wouldn't necessarily play it. There's actually a cool card in black that I've always wanted to play with. Ritual of the Machine. 2 generic, double black, sorcery. As an additional cost to play Ritual of the Machine, sacrifice a creature, gain control of target non-black, non-artifact creature. Well, that's a lot. But this is a card I've always wanted to play. 1, the art's amazing. But 2, I feel like this could actually be good in chance scenarios. I don't believe it's good in general, though. It seems just okay. Obviously, does anything really compete with Gilded Drake? Claim the Firstborn in Rograk and Devesh, but that's about it. So what I want to do right now, let's just do this. We're going to go artifact heavy-ish, but not in the way you're thinking. I kind of just want to put some eggs up in this deck because I really want to leverage eggs to get the ball rolling on our own strategy. Just filter through our list by converting our Jund mana into whatever else we want, draw, keep peeling through our deck and doing things on our turn, right? And this is probably just going to amount, it feels like a sub-strategy like this feels like it would sort of relate better to a stacks list, but I just want to see where we can get the deck going sans stacks. Maybe just more controlling elements, redirects, and things of that nature. Obviously destruction, but single target destruction. We are in very good colors for destruction. trust me, and we'll incorporate as much as we can. But Bag of Devouring, I'm not even conscious of what this card does. Sacrifice another artifact creature, draw a card. Again, but it's like we have the mana to do this. Like we can get the Jund, play this, and sacrifice another artifact creature to draw a singular card. But you sacrifice it, roll a d10, return X cards from your graveyard. That's kind of cool. I mean, it was because Yurlok can pay for this entire thing very easily, but I don't feel like sacrificing something else. If it entered the battlefield and did a trick, then it would be a little bit more useful to me. But like filtering Yurlok mana into a Brainstone sounds kind of good, but that's a quite lofty setup to begin with. I will put like a Chromatic Star, Chromatic Sphere. Right? These are easy filters for the Jund mana. And we could be playing our own Ad Nauseam, by the way. Like, we can be filthy degenerates like that. As a matter of fact, I think I put Ad Nauseam in the deck, so let's try to keep the curve low anyways. But we can definitely do that. And something like a Conjurer's Bubble wouldn't be bad if we were using Ad Nauseam, because it happens to be good recovery. If you happen to shuffle your deck, it's very good. Conjurer's Bubble and Oswald, by the way, really good. But let's take a gander at some of these eggs. Mossfire Egg, stuff like this. It seems odd, right? Like, again, this setup is very similar-ish to our Brainstone. Heck, let me just put it in. Let's just see how it performs. Obviously, these aren't things that need to stay. They're just things I want to play with. I feel like they would be good in this deck. I could be wrong. Oh, I'd love to not be wrong. Mossfire Egg. I forgot the name of the other egg because I have never played the eggs. Pyrite Spellbomb is great. I wish we were in white. Oh my gosh. If we only in this instance, because it would be great to do like an Auriok Salvager loop and then rock this Spellbomb to just ravage people. But alas, we're not. A Shadowblood Egg. Now, unfortunately, the Rings of Brighthearth combo doesn't allow for infinite mana necessarily, not as it's slated. Where you can also use Sensei's Divining Top with... Did you watch... If you watched my previous live stream with Play to Win, you'll know that first game I played Oswald Fiddlebender, I made infinite generic, very roundabout way. I got Sensei's Divining Top and drew through my deck, because if you had infinite mana, you could use Rings of Brighthearth and Sensei's Divining Top to do that. We're not really going to get there in this list. We could use this for the card quality, but I would rather we go for eggs to get the job done instead. Things like Terrarian, though, are just a little shoddy in my opinion. Not for this deck, at least. And honestly, that might be it for our eggs breakfast. I hope that was adequate enough for you. Was 4 eggs enough? It probably is, if we're being honest. I feel like 4 eggs is probably enough. Anything else that's like 2 CMC or over is probably going to be overkill. And what were the other things I mentioned? Equipment? Let's look up equipment. Loosely look up equipment. And if you can suggest some equipment you'd like. I know things like Sword of Feast and Famine exist, right? They are combo cards. If you want to go for a Sword of Feast and Famine combo, it wouldn't be unheard of. One thing I was thinking would be kind of cute is Veilstone Amulet, because it's a nice way to protect our creatures. Yurlok gets this down very quickly, but whenever you cast a spell, creatures you control can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. It's hexproof. It would be kind of cool for this deck, because we're not... I feel like this should be more of a control list by way of destruction, and not land destruction, but removing value creatures, removing value artifacts from our opponents, and then obviously playing towards one of our combos, which could be a Buried Alive plan with Asmodeus, Necrotic Ooze, Scourge Familiar, and or Seeker of Skybreak. I kind of want to aim for because it's a fun combo for the deck. So anything that can also leverage Rings of Brighthearth in a meaningful way would be a positive in my book. Let me see where you guys are at. I'm definitely behind. Shattering Spree, yeah, so, thank you. Shattering Spree makes sense. Like, I love spells like that. I love spells like Meltdown. Meltdown makes a whole lot of sense in my opinion, especially if you don't have very many artifacts out, and or we're relying on both creatures and artifacts. I don't know how much space we're going to have in this deck, so we're probably not going to go too hard on the creature ramp. But if you were to do like a Meltdown for Yurlok's Jund, then you'll eliminate every single artifact that's 2 CMC and under, which is pretty absurd, right? So that doesn't hurt our Rings of Brighthearth, but it would hurt everything else. Excuse me. Well, maybe, okay, we should probably switch this up. I don't want to just look at all the equipment, because this is not a Voltron list. I want to look at equipment that draws. And not necessarily Skull Clamp, although Skull Clamp would be kind of cool. But stuff like this that's added value. Because again, it's almost like Belby, where you don't want to play Belby unless you have a thing to do with Belby. I don't want to activate Yurlok unless I have the thing to do with Yurlok. It just doesn't make sense. So if I can activate Yurlok for temporary value for my opponents and myself, give myself a little bit of a draw utility, and then play through turns, drawing cards, trying to find resources to activate and use, that would be okay. So Sword of Fire and Ice, I mean, it might just be as minimal as like a Sword of Fire and Ice. I do like Mask of Memory, right? Anything that's going to let us loot or rummage, right? Which is draw and discard, or discard and draw, respectively. Anything like that is going to be good for the list because we do have a basic reanimate strategy. You know, we can add more to the reanimate package. I do think Vilis is the core one. So I'm probably going to want to just stick with Vilis. But if Vilis is in hand, then it's actually really nice to have something like Rogue's Gloves or Mask of Memory. I do think that Sword of Fire and Ice and Mask are probably the only real good draw equip I'm looking at. None of these really get me excited. Skeleton Key is something that you could actually cast and equip instantaneously, and that one's kind of appealing. And even better in some instances, I would say Zephyr Boots. The flying is nice, and sometimes you might want to push that block. Like if your Crom is going to block me, isn't Crom would die to my Yurlok, excuse me. So I wouldn't mind pushing a block on certain flyers like that. I wouldn't mind. The Crom would never do that, but just having that option would be very nice. Maybe Zephyr Boots. I think we probably... Crom would never decide that. The player might not decide that. Helix Pinnacle to just sink all that sweet mana into. Is Helix Pinnacle's... It's X value, right? It's not generic or anything. It's just X. Yeah. Eventide. That's where Helix Pinnacle hails from. I'm probably good on Helix Pinnacle. If we won with Helix Pinnacle, you got to post a video, or you got to really display the fact that you won with Helix Pinnacle. If that actually happens, I'd love to find out. Let me know if you run Helix Pinnacle in your list. What about Chromatic Orrery to just solve the filter problem? I don't know if filtering's the problem. But we'll look at Chromatic Orrery really quick. Are you saying that my egg idea is bad? Oh god. You may spend mana over any color. So Jund, it's more than Jund. Draw a card. Well, Chromatic Orrery. Do I own a copy of Chromatic Orrery? I might. Why is it expensive? Who's playing Chromatic Orrery? Damn. Buy your Willow Satyr instead. I think Chromatic Orrery is kind of cute. Maybe you might be right. I'll sideline it for now. Maybe we add Chromatic Orrery. Maybe. I like the idea, though. Sorry, just joined. What are the win cons? One more time for us all wanting in. Lich's Mastery, Harmless Offering, please. I'll look at it. Joseph Hayhurst. My Yurlok isn't cEDH, but Tainted Ether, Burning Sands, Dingus Egg, Primal Order, Desolation. And you know with absolute certainty that, Joseph, that is the way to go. I believe you. I 100% believe you. And thank you, by the way, for the super chat. I really appreciate you. Oh, shit. I really do like Tainted Ether. Well, see, this is Land Destruction I don't mind. Now, my issue with this, my only fault with Tainted Ether is that a common line of play for a lot of decks is to cast Dockside Extortionist. And oftentimes when Dockside's on the battlefield, it can be stuck, where other people can leverage it. Say like a Phantasmal Image, maybe your own Phantasmal Image. But a lot of lists like to have the Dockside go to their grave so that they can reanimate it and get more value out of it. So I'm a little nervous that if we go with something like this, that we are enabling not a Dockside loop necessarily, but recursion strategies that would be leveraging that Dockside. So I do like the suggestion. I'm going to look at Burning Sands really quick. I would be nervous about that. Whenever a creature dies, that creature's controller sacrifices a land. Well, if we go for the Vilis, then it's pretty good, right? I mean, we could definitely We could definitely kill some creatures with Villas. Okay. So you're listening to the fact that I want to add a lot of removal, a lot of destruction. I think that Burning Sands would be good with certain destruction elements. Dingus Egg I have never played for, but I know it well. Whenever a land is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, Dingus Egg deals 2 damage to its land's controller. Well, okay, so I see what you're trying to add all these elements up towards. Primal Order. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, Primal Order deals damage to that player equal to the number of non-basic lands. Okay, so that's kind of cool, actually. Oh, come on. 5th edition. I'm sorry. This looks like it belongs in a museum, maybe? Potentially? Potentially? I like the reflection. This is such a sick... Never mind. That's actually really dope art. But that Homelands art, that's some beautiful art. I'm a little obsessed with the art here. Shit, I didn't appreciate Primal Order as much as I should till I saw the bridge that is non-existent off to the right there. I could kind of see Primal Order being an odd... Because this hits us too. And as I said, Villas is something I actually want to play for. So this is a good way to benefit off Villas, provided someone hasn't Gilded Draked it or killed it or something to it, right? But Primal Order is a nice way to, like, pile on the damage. I'll put that on the sideboard. I think that could be something sideable. Right? I do like the effect, though. Don't get me wrong. And you do have one more suggestion. Desolation. Okay. Yeah. This is the other... here, let's read it. At the beginning of each end step, each player who tapped a land for mana this turn sacrifices a land. Desolation deals 2 damage to each player who sacrificed planes this way. Okay, just stick it to those mono white lists, why don't you? George Pratt art, also fantastic. I'm a little iffy on Desolation. I do like the Primal Order, though, I have to say. I ran Helix Pinnacle in Kinnan before I replaced it with Force and won maybe 4. You won 4 out of 5 games with Helix Pinnacle? You won 4 out of 5 games with Helix Pinnacle? How many instant speed artifact to field utilities are there? Or did it just stay around? That is insane to me. I don't know if you got it, but Clock of Omens is fun for artifacts. Heavy list, but probably doesn't fit here. Now I'm getting a Torbrand call. Getting a call from Torbrand. Yes? Thane of Redfell? Did you need something? If a red source would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage to +2. Is the source of the damage Yurlok here? I'm sorry. It's just Yurlok. The effect is on Yurlok. Is it the source of the damage? If someone can clarify that for me, I'd like to know. That is interesting synergy. I don't know if that's how that would work, but I'd love to know. 4 or 5 games, not 80%. Got you. Every game I won with Helix Pinnacle. People keep talking about Thassa's Oracle, but I'm all over Helix Pinnacle these days. The town and the bridge doesn't exist. It just exists in the reflection as a part of the conception of the art. Yeah, that art was really good. I didn't hit me initially. That art is really badass. Okay, while we're here, let me just save and continue this. I don't think we've added too much to the pie yet. Our Jund pie. But let me go ahead and add our fast mana. Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, Mana Vaults, Grimoire. I don't know if we do that. I don't do that. Wait, let's just Mana Vault at least. Mana Vault at least. Mox Opal, Chrome Mox, Mox Diamond, Elvish Spirit Guide, Simeon Spirit Guide, and so many comments. He is not the source. The effect is Yurlok. The effect is Yurlok. He is not the source. Oh damn. Contradictions. But we have J Throne saying Helix Pinnacle comes with Shroud though. Yurlok is not the source of damage. Thank you. I'm going to take J Throne's opinion here. J Throne seems to be an expert on this. Thank you, J Throne, for the super chat. And it does come with Shroud. Okay, I see that. And Joseph Hayher says, oh, Mana Web. And Sabo's Web, thank you for the super chat. Let's look at... Okay, so if you guys don't know Mana Web, it's oldie but a goodie. It's got a weird cat statue in it for some reason. That's a cat, right? There's definitely a cat right there, but that's a cat statue, right? Whenever a land an opponent controls is tapped for mana, tap all lands that the player controls that could produce any type of mana that land could produce. So if they have... they'll be like, if they tap their command tower, then any other land that could tap for any type of mana that command tower could produce gets tapped. And this is much the same fashion another utility that functions like the tectonic instability, right? I'll put only because this is not as demanding on the cast. It doesn't require any sort of color. You can just do this with Jund. I'll add Mana Web, but let's look at Sabo's Web. Sabo's Web's got some great art too, by the way. I think Gerard's on there. It's a little bit of an oddity. Is that Gerard? I always thought this was Gerard when I looked at this art. I'm assuming it is. But when Sabo's Web enters the battlefield, you draw a card. So, oh my god, the egg strategy. Each land with an activated ability that isn't a mana ability doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. So if we ran something like Root Maze or Life's Orb or anything that makes things enter the battlefield tapped, then Sabo's Web is really good in tandem with that. This is tough to say. It's really valuable elsewise. Like if someone plays the shock lands, they'll probably just want to put it into play untapped anyways. Not that the shock land would be affected by this, excuse me. The main thing you're thinking about, whenever a land with an activated, each land with an activated ability that isn't a mana ability doesn't untap it. That would be like fetch land. I think the most common effect is a fetch land, but there are some utility lands that would get hurt, like a War Room. You know, things like War Room, things that have added value on top of just producing mana would get hurt. Things like your Blast Zone would get hurt. Things like your Emergence Zone would get hurt. I don't need to look up all of these, but you know what I mean. There is a couple of value-added lands that get stopped by Sabo's Web. I actually kind of like Sabo's Web enough. I think that might hurt us. Let's look at our land base. I'll add it to the main list, though. I do like that one. Does it say lose? Because if it does say lose, then it doesn't work. It's life loss, not damage. Torbrand doesn't hit. Depending on hate you want, you could force others to tap. Hold up. Check one thing on the Streamlabs OBS here before we continue. I am so sorry if there's been flickering, by the way. So normally, this is one of the issues I've had with Streamlabs for such a long time. But you'll notice I shut these off. I actually have two panes that run the stream, that run our, what you're not looking at now, our Google. But I realized that one of them's been hidden. So if it was flickering this whole time, pardon that. Streamlabs OBS was clearly not suited for Macintosh, but we're making it work. So there's actually two separate sources. If you have this issue and you run live streams, just make two separate sources of the same thing, and that'll fix the flickering issue. And apologies if it's been flickering this whole time. I just noticed that. Okay. That with Yavimaya or Urberg. Zansha is a great outlet for a someone was joking about Zansha in the oh man, how do you spell it? Is that, oh god, no, and it's not, what is it? Cha. I don't know how to spell her name. But I'm gonna look up Zansha. I'm gonna look up Zansha this way. This is the best way to look her up, trust me. Oh god, it's really not the best way to look her up. This is gonna be all day. We're gonna be all day here. Oh no. I know, I just apologized for one thing. Don't make me apologize again. Where are you, Zansha? Oh, hey, Champion's Helm. Champion's Helm. I kind of like Champion's Helm. As long as equipped creature is legendary, it has hexproof. I kind of don't mind Champion's Helm, but Zansha should be right here. Zansha. Where are you, girl? You know, I give up. I give up on Zansha. Zansha. Did I? Okay. Thank you. This is an interesting effect. Zansha's controller loses 2 life and you draw a card. Right? Any player may activate this ability. So what's cute about this is that with Jund, you can cast Zansha, give Zansha to someone, and people will just cannibalize that one individual. I like Zoncha enough that I will add Zoncha, but I don't know how long it would last in the list. We'll see. Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, Mana Vaults, Mox Opal, Chrome Mox, Mox Diamond, Elvish Spirit Guide, Simian Spirit Guide, Dark Ritual. Like I said, I want to add all of the... I don't know if we need Cabal Ritual. I don't think we need Cabal Ritual. We do have an Ad Naus on the list, but it's not something that we're really prioritizing here. I do think Rite of Flame is going to be good, and we'll save that out. I know people really like Jessica's Will, but if I'm not able to prioritize my commander that quickly, I don't like Jessica's Will that much. So far as other rituals and ramp are concerned, we just need Jeweled Lotus. It only accounts for 2 mana, but that's okay. And we'll also do Lotus Petal, right? I think that's fine. I think that is fine. The T is silent. Thank you. We're running Dockside here. God! Swordman, why do you have to make such good suggestions? Yeah, we're running Dockside. This is a cEDH channel. Of course we're running Dockside. Yeah, is there any other big bomby things we want to add? In the mana ramp category. Because I just want to do tutors really quickly. Right, I got Buried Alive in there. I want to do Entomb. We'll do Reanimate while we set that up, as well as Animate Dead. Because we will want at least those 2 for Villas. I think that's probably fair. We don't need to add everything because we're not going to rely solely on Villas to do anything. I don't imagine. It's sort of just a nice sub-strategy for card draw here. I do want to add tutors, and then I also want to get into our card draw utilities, and I think we'll be good. But Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, the best tutor. Fight me. Fight me. Actually, don't fight me. Fight amongst yourselves. Which is best? I think we've done this as a community poll, but Demonic Tutor or Vampiric Tutor? I'm curious. Which is best? You must know. You watch the 99. Wishclaw Talisman? Gomblay. Jambles. If I can spell it. Gamble. Okay. Animate Dead, Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, Diabolic Intent. Birds of Paradise. I don't know if we add every dork. I don't want to add like every dork. Let's just add a few. Let's add Elvish Mystic, right? It's kind of where I want to stop. Like, I don't know how many... I feel like we're sort of leaning towards artifacts as being our main source of ramp. Not that it matters, but Diabolic Intent. Okay, I sort of got very sidelined here. But Animate Dead, Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, Imperial Seal. We want Entomb. I did Entomb. We don't need Unmarked Grave. So far as creature tutors are concerned, obviously we want Green Sun's Zenith. Probably want a Finale of Devastation. I've heard that card is good. We'll probably put in Opposition Agents and Dothi Voidwalker. Something tells me that those are good cards as well. They're very easy to cast off of mana from boy. At least the Opposition Agent is off turn. Love that. We'll add in a removal suite in just a second as well. But I don't know if there's any other tutors that we should be adding. Let me know. What other tutors would you like? I definitely want to add the Bolt Bend. I want to add, okay, Bolt Bend. I want to add, someone said Deflecting Swat. The answer is yes. We want a Deflecting Swat. I want to add our Ricochet Trap. Any redirect, right, that we can leverage. You're gonna have to, I mean, I actually might look at this. I've never looked at change target spell instant in Jund. Maybe there's some odd utility that I've just never known of. We'll see. Joseph Hayhurst says, I think it's CMC might be too high, but Herald of Leshrac? Oh, the guy who does the land thieving. And all the cards with an effect like Collector Oof to fight fast mana. It's interesting. We're kind of abusing the fast mana suite as well. So, Joe, I'm not sure how much we leverage. I don't know how much we leverage Leshrac. Leshrac's some weird, like, very much Lovecraftian creature in the world of magic. I mean, if you've just never seen Les Shrek, but Imps Mischief. Imps Mischief. We will incorporate Imps Mischief. Okay. Ristic Tutor Kappa. You could. LED Underworld Breach. You could. Also, Jessica's will. Maybe. New Jund Dork. Oh, Ignoble Hierarch. Yes. Thank you. I just want that. Yeah. Wait, we forgot a good one. Wait, Ignoble. Get rid of this Elvish Mystic. What? Why do we have that? Deathrite Shaman. Kind of want that. Just eat those. Eat those lands. Eat all those lands. Bloom Tender. Bloom Tender, you say? I think that Bloom Tendy might have a home. Bloom Tendy has a home here, I think. Ignoble equals better than Elvish Mystic. Yes, it is. I think I added Gamble. Let me save and save this for you all, though. Dual Caster Mage. Diabolic Revelation. Deflecting Sweat, yes. Herald. Dictate of Karametra. Bob. What about Bob? Green Leyline and Umbral Infinite with Yurlok, right? Yeah, we talked about that earlier. I'm not sure I'm so high on that particular combination, but that is a thing you can do. That is a thing you can do. So I think what we'll do now that we've got a majority of our fast mana ramp, Underworld Breach is not a bad strategy. So what I will say about Underworld Breach is that this is not an Underworld Breach list. However, I do want to at least add it to our sideboard, make mention of it. It is a thing in cEDH that you often see. I'll add Lion's Eye Diamond. Lion's Eye Diamond is really only there for the discarding of your hand. If I'm being perfectly honest, it's usually best just to discard your hand with that. I do want to add a few draw utilities. The mana fixing's okay. In these colors, you're not going to need the mana fixing though. The better win conditions rely on artifacts. So you only need generic costed things and a grinding station. So LED is not like the end all be all. It is extremely useful for dumping your hand though. It can be in certain instances. All right, so let's go ahead and add our draw utilities. Someone said Bob. So yes, we're going to add, I'm sorry. For when you said Bob, I was thinking of Gary. The Merchant of Asphodel, wherever he's from. Don't want him, but we do want Dark Confidant. We want Dark Tutelage. I'm a sucker for Faithless Looting. I don't know why, and we're going to go for the best art. You know which one I'm talking about. You knew which one I was talking about. But what other draw utilities do we want? Maybe like a Sylvan Library? I don't know. Have you heard of this card? You lose a lot of life, but you draw cards? It seems okay. Sylvan Library. And there's no real big heavy hitter kind of draw utilities. We have the Ad Nauseam in the deck, mind you, so there's a heavy hitter right there. I added Dark Ritual, got Dark Ritual out of the way, right? I didn't add Cabal Ritual, but I'm feeling kind of filthy. Let's do it. Cabal Ritual. Let's see here. And Tybalt's Trickery is being suggested. Gotta have Beast Within. Okay, so we've got... so Beast Within and Jund is maybe like a bridge too far for me. Is the World Gorger Dragon combo a thing you could do in this deck? It is a thing you could do in this deck. And what's nice about World Gorger is the fact that World Gorger is not legendary. So you could actually use something like an Unmarked Grave to bury the World Gorger and then fire up the combo with our one Animate aura. We just have Animate dead. I do think that pushing for an Aceract Allurin is a little bit better, if I'm going to be honest with you. That way we don't murder ourselves to accomplish the task. Like if we can avoid it, we'll avoid it. Like something like Anya doesn't have as good of an option so far as like the combo to go for. Plus it just plays well into a strategy like hers, the whole, rummaging business. So World Gorger is really good there, but I think here we could do better. We could do better than World Gorger. We're in Jund. Name the best Jund removal spells. I'll start. Assassin's Trophy. Is that one good? I think so. Abrupt Decay. Maybe one of my favorites. That's pretty good. I think we want to add... Someone was mentioning Shattering Spree. Gens? Yes. Someone mentioned Shattering Spree, and I agree, is what I'm saying. I think Shattering Spree is fantastic. I really like Meltdown, although it could hurt us We shall see. Vandal Blast is definitely something that we can actually get to very easily. So I will actually incorporate a Vandal Blast. Destroy. We want to look up Destroy All. Let's look up Destroy All. What's wrong with us? Nothing at all. Oh my God. Culling Ritual, because we're just filthy people. We will use Culling Ritual. I don't know successfully, but we will use it. Oh, hey, and if we're destroying things, wait up. We can also use Rushed Rebirth. Maybe we used Rushed Rebirth, but I'll put that there. But let me just look at the destroy. We want to destroy all things, though. I'm sorry. Vandal Blast is the only odd one out, I think, that says each. So let's just look at what we have here. Subterranean Tremors is a thing we could do. It's a little tacky. I don't know if we need Subterranean Tremors, though. It's just a nice X spell. Like a Roiling Earthquake would be kind of cool. You could do stuff like that to damage out the board. Damage the creatures. Is Rakdos Charm necessary? I don't know. How often do you fight Najeela? Maybe it is. Exile cards from turn. Yeah, I kind of like Rakdos Charm here, actually. Blasphemous Act. Mog Salvage. Mog Salvage. Oh, someone made the best suggestion. J-Throne with the REB. Yes. I do think that Red Elemental Blast is vital. I also think that Pyroblast is vital. We need something to fight those disgusting blue players. There's also... It never makes it into any of my list, but there's also the other counter spell that counters blue instant speed spells. Which the name I'm forgetting right now. Let's see here, but what do we have? I don't know if Mog Salvage makes the cut because I'm not sure we're always going to have a mountain for it. I know that sounds weird. Chaos Warp is fine. Chaos Warp is fine. Also, Defense Grid is... See, now, yes, I like Defense Grid. I want to say Defense Grid is it feels like it kind of deserves to be in this list. So let's just go ahead and add the Defense Grid. I could be wrong. Lavalanche. Lavalanche? What? I'll look up Lavalanche in a second. I kind of want to look for those Pyroblast of the world. You know what I mean? Those, not Pyroblast, I'm sorry. You don't know what I mean. Pyroclasms of the world. Now do you know what I mean? You know what I mean. Destroy target enchantment. Regenerate each creature you control. Golgari Charm. This is almost like the opposite of Rakdos Charm. Is it good? I don't really know. I don't think it is. I don't think it's worth it, people. I really just don't. Oh, have you all seen Seeds of the Innocents, by the way? Bury all artifacts. That's a good one. All right, I think that Subterranean Tremors is nice for just wiping the board, but it doesn't hit flyers. Whereas something like a Roiling Earthquake, this would be good for wiping the board. Is it just Rolling Earthquake? I'm sorry. I always thought it was Roiling. Wow. Each creature without horsemanship and each player. So Rolling Earthquake is actually really good in my book. We will add Rolling Earthquake. I feel like I've always thought it was Roiling. Okay. And I'm gonna close out that sweet pull we got going. It's gonna be so nice when I have two monitors, I swear. I can't wait. I cannot wait. Guttural Response, thank you. Guttural Response. Okay, so what do we got? Some people were suggesting Burnout. Some people were suggesting Guttural Response, or just helping me out. How about Torment of Hailfire? Torment of Hailfire is a black spell with Nicol Bolas on it. And it's something that you can pump. There you go. Pump mana into. X black sorcery. Repeat the following process X times. Each opponent loses 3 life unless that player sacrifices an unland permanent or discards a card. Well, you know, that actually doesn't seem horrible. So let's do that. I mean, okay, let's do it. Why not? Let's do it. I don't know if we're going to close someone out with this, but I'll add it. Again, we are coming to our limit here. I'm seeing a lot of good suggestions, though. I think that the Veil of Summer makes sense. The Autumn Veil might make sense here as well. Just stuff to protect our stuff. I don't know if we really need to protect our stuff, though, because I don't think it's going to be targeted too much. Jay Throne says, okay, hear me out. Seed time. So if you guys don't know this one, Rebecca Guai art, some of her finest work. If you own a foil version of this card, lucky you. I feel like they've gone up in price, but this is something that never made it to a Hidden Gems video, but it feels like it. It feels like it. It can be. Cast a spell only during your turn. That's its one major hang-up. But we are trying to win on our turn. So, take an extra turn after this one if an opponent casts a blue spell this turn. Well, just hope that you're like next to the player that is going to play some sort of value blue spell at the end of your turn. Just hope. They're like, opt? Did you just say opt? Seed time. You know what? Yeah, we'll add it. We'll add seed. Wait, yeah. Make it. I gotta make it a foil. Wait on. Gotta make sure that's foil. Look at this. Demonic Tutor. 73% of the votes. It looks like a majority feel that Demonic Tutor is the better tutor. In some instances, Vampiric Tutor is fine. But I agree. I think Demonic Tutor is probably the best. So far as concluding a game, putting it into your hand, it only gets one better with putting it on the battlefield. Shout out to you, Oswald Fiddlebender. But yeah, it only gets one better. Off-topic question, is there a way to put an instant or sorcery from your deck to your graveyard? Entomb. Entomb allows you to do just that. Stars 2 plays StarCraft. Seed Time is a classic, but a niche classic. Rough and Tumble and Pyroclasm. Oh, fuck. Oh, God. I love Avoid Fate. I'm sorry. Let me take a second to just... Okay, so this is one of my favorite cards. Because it's a usable counter in green. Other colors got counters? Yeah, sometimes. Avoid Fate. Just admire the art, too. Instant. Counter target instant or aura that targets a permanent you control. Permanent. That's not so bad. That's not so bad. Okay, I like that. Someone said Emerald Charm. And this was earlier in relation to the Isochron Scepter business. I actually don't mind the Emerald Charm. If you guys don't know, it is a modal spell. But what's important about Emerald Charm, what many don't know about Emerald Charm, I'm going to leave you hanging on this one for a second. I'm just trying to make sure I have Gaia's Cradle in here. Is that, and you'll see why, untapped target permanent. So that's the most important aspect of Emerald Charm, and this is probably why it was brought up in concerns to Isochron Scepter, because if it untapped every permanent you control, well, that would just be absurd. But, or at least multiple permanents, then it would be really good. But Emerald Charm is really good for untapping your Gaia's Cradle. It's very good for untapping our boy and piling on damage, and or just ramping out, right? So you make the Jund, you use a green, and I think you get the 4 mana ultimately doing this, which is actually still pretty good. You are giving 6 mana away, though. Excuse me. Destroy non-aura enchantment, also really good. Do you not like that Rhystic Study? Do you not like that Mystic Remora? Get rid of it. Target creature loses flying until end of turn. These are all things I really like hearing, aside from maybe that last one. But Emerald Charm is not bad. I actually quite like it. It feels like an underrated card in green, and we're going to incorporate it here because it kind of makes sense. Withering Boon to stop creature spells is an interesting question. I don't know if we're going to add it here. I think Vexing Shusher is so good. I could agree with Vexing Shusher. This is a Gruul card, a bit of a staple in some players' decks, but target spell can't be countered. Just a nice way to say, back up, bro. Just a really nice way to say that. But we got to cut some things before we do anything else with our life. We got to cut some things. So let's go ahead and do that now. Got to cut 11 things. I think my egg dream is going to die very soon. We'll see, though. Sorcery speed. Okay. Did Ignoble Hierarch make it yet? Oh, did Ignoble Hierarch make it? Where are you? Where are you, my Ignoble Hierarch? There you are. Wait, isn't there a better frame for this guy? Wait, let's do this one. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Let's just do the... Yes, that's the one we want. In foil. Did Ignoble Hierarch make it? That's the one we're buying. That's the one we're using. Paul Johnson coming in with the genius. Yes. Yes. Unmarked Grave can also get instants and sorceries. That is not a bad idea. And especially if we go for an Underworld Breach strategy, if we unmark Grave of value, anything of value, it's actually quite good. I don't see why we wouldn't want to incorporate Underworld Breach. Let me just state that it would probably make a lot of sense to incorporate an Underworld Breach line of play. And I mean like Underworld Breach, a grinding station, all of the artifact ramp we have going on. These are not bad ideas. These are not bad things. Particularly when you are milling yourself repeatedly, you just find the solutions you need at a certain point, and then you use the LED to dump your hands, so on and so forth. You would use something like a chromatic star, right? So you just like fill. This makes no sense, I'm sure. If you have Underworld Breach and Grinding Station and a Mana Crypt, you can cast the Mana Crypt, mill your deck 3 cards with a Grinding Station, use those 3 cards or any 3 cards to recast the Mana Crypt. You are up 2 generic mana every single time. Then you can start filtering that into Mana Crypt, building your hand, finding more solutions. If you happen to need the cards in your graveyard, you can use that LED you just drew into. You can use the LED that happened to be in your graveyard at this point. But basically, you're filling up your grave to play out one of X amount of strategies, and those strategies are Witherbloom Apprentice. And in Witherbloom Apprentice, Underworld Breach makes a lot of sense, right? Because the other combo card in tandem with this is Chain of Smog. It's going to use the Magecraft effect to just damage out the board, right? So whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each player loses 1 life. It's almost the opposite of like a brain freeze strategy where you're milling yourself. You're making yourself discard with Chain of Smog and copying that effect repeatedly. I actually don't mind that. The more I say this, the more I just want to incorporate it. But the other combo would be Alurin and Acerak. Okay, I wanted to do an Alurin. So initially, again, when I built this, if you're tuning in late, this was supposed to be an Acerak, an Ace Up the Sleeve combo deck. But I am kind of liking the idea of having Underworld Breach in the deck too. Although every list with red kind of relies on Underworld Breach, it makes it feel a little stale to me. It could just be our alternative strategy to the deck. I think that would be fun. With Aetherflash? Oh. Living Plane? Joseph Hayhurst says, last thought. It doesn't have to be your last thought. But Living Plane, if you guys don't know, it's an enchantment that makes lands, creatures, world enchantment. So if another world enchantment is cast, this one goes bye-bye, in case you're wondering what that super type means, if anything. It's still relevant, although there aren't that many world enchantments that are played in Commander, let alone cEDH, so it's probably safe. All lands are 1/1 creatures and are still lands. So basically, with the Aetherflash, you would destroy things. You would destroy lands. That's pretty good. That's just, yeah, it's kind of rude. I do like Aetherflash, though. I don't know if Aetherflash is right for this list, but Living Plane would be a strategy that you could rock in this deck. It wouldn't be horrible. Because we are going to try to aim for Villas as a reanimate target. You could just kill lands, but it's probably not something we're going to aim for. I'm sorry. The other combo I was driving at, Buried Alive, Scourge Familiar, Asmodeus. Great way to draw your deck. I think before we actually do this, because I talked myself into it, I'm going to add Grinding Station and then mainline the LED. And you'll see why. We're going to mainline this LED. We're going to do this. Copy that. Remove it. Go down to the bottom here. Right there. How about that? Cool. Okay. Let me just state that if you had... you can also, instead of using Grinding Station, you can use Culling the Weak with a little card called Stitcher's Supplier. And this will do the same thing, essentially. You'll only generate black mana doing this, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. But you get to mill yourself in much the same way you would with a Grinding Station. So Stitcher Supplier for 1 black. When it enters the battlefield or dies, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. Well, this, coupled with a little card called Culling, and this is pretty commonly used now, but Culling the Weak, is a great way. Sacrifice a creature, add 4 black mana to your mana pool. So this is a great ritual, but it also works in tandem with Underworld Breach, Stitcher Supplier to make black and filter through your graveyard effects that you will want to cast with Underworld Breach, ultimately converting that black mana into something more meaningful. And generally speaking, you would want to add an Aetherflux Reservoir to this package, but I think that what we're probably going to do is mainline the Witherbloom Apprentice and or the Acerak combo. So let's just go ahead and remove any other combo that doesn't work well in tandem with this. That may mean we get rid of the Seeker of Skybreak, despite the fact that she does work well with Yurlok. But let me just tune in with you guys. Do you feel like that's the right move? Is that where we migrate? Let's see here. Actually. Let me go ahead and just throw up a poll there. Do you still want Seeker plus... Do you still want Seeker plus rings? Okay. So let's cut some cards. Let's see here. Seeker plus... Oh, Necropotence was a suggestion made. That's a good card quality card. You could add that. This list needs Daryl Hunter of Walkers. I'm always for Daryl Hunter of Walkers. By the way, I really love Daryl. Daryl's probably one of my favorite Gruul list. Whether you like what they did with this Secret Lair drop or not, I really like Daryl Hunter of Walkers as a card. I think it's a very good card. I don't think this list needs it per se, but it is something you could do in this deck. Yeah, it's just good. It's just good value engine. We could add Necropotence later. I'm not really trying to. I would use it for value. You know what? Okay. The reason Necropotence is so nice in something like my Rograk and Tevesh list is that we also incorporate, and we have it here, Emergence Zone, but we also incorporate a little card called Final Fortune, which is phenomenal. Did you watch the game this weekend where I won with Rograk and Tevesh spoiler alert, I'm sorry, where I won with a Necropotence and a Final Fortune. It's a doable thing. It's actually very good. But we're not using Final Fortune, and that's okay. Culling Ritual is really good here. I don't know if Culling Ritual stabs us too much in the foot, but Culling Ritual is a great way to set off an ad nauseum. It's not something we're going to do all the time, but it is something we want to do often. Did we include the Sword of Perun, Goblin Archaeomancer, and Rings of Brighthearth? No, that is something I suppose we could do. I really like having the ability to finish out the game, rather, with Yurlok as a backup. I chose Ashaya lines to do it, but your line with Seeker Rings is good too. I know it's part of the brewing process, but it makes me sad that one of the original combos for the list, Seeker Rings, might be taken out. I agree with you, Jens. It's like, it's like I was mentioning off the bat, like I feel like Yurlok could just be looked at the same way as Belby. You don't always cast Belby in Belby, believe it or not. You don't always cast Belby. Although that is sort of the dream, like having an amazing turn 2 with Belby. But you don't always go for that. Whereas Yurlok, you could go for Yurlok, but you don't always tap Yurlok to do the mana burn thing. I almost feel like Yurlok might be better as just a value engine to drive other elements of the deck. Not necessarily finish off the game itself. But I do think that it's something that we could still incorporate, provided we want to. And of course, I'm going to see where you guys are at in just a second. But let's take a look at the artifacts first. I think Sword of Fire and Ice is fine. This is obviously up for contention. Defense Grid is good. I think Grinding Station is good, obviously. Mask of the Memory. Sabo's Web, I'm a little iffy on. We can reincorporate it if we want. I think Conqueror's Flail is a must, though. Brainstone as an egg is just okay, but this is a good way to filter through some cards, obviously. I'm a little iffy on Brainstone. My main goal with Chromatic Star, the Chromatic Star, Chromatic Sphere, and the 2 eggs is to simply pull through more cards and then cast our Bloom Tender or whatever. It's like a good way to just pull through the list. They feel like filler. And for the most part, they are. So these two can go. I do think having them 1 mana of any color is likely better in most scenarios. I do want to keep our artifact count relatively high, though, so that Mox Opal is still a viable spell to cast. And I think the rest of these are good. Mana Vault is going to be fine for pumping out a lot of these things, but Mana Vault is also really good late game if we do an Ad Nauseam. If we're trying to shoot for the Ad Nauseam, it would not hurt to consider mana fixing cards as well. Things like Mana Vault into Arcane Signet to pop off with something else. But we don't have an Arcane Signet. It is something we can definitely add, and probably the only other artifact ramp we would want to add. Let's just see where we're at with our card count. So we still need to cut 11 things. I know I added Citrus Supplier to the outside here. It is still something we can do. Something fun I should mention right now is that I had initially an idea of going Pilla-Palla Bogarden Dragonheart as a Buried Alive pile. If you've been wondering why these two cards were here this entire time, if you Buried Alive Pilla-Palla, Bogarden Dragonheart, and Necrotic Ooze, if you reanimate Necrotic Ooze, you could sacrifice Yurlok, and so until end of turn, Necrotic Ooze becomes a dragon with base power and toughness 4/4, flying, and haste. And then with Yurlok in your graveyard, you can tap to add Jund and use Pilla-Palla to add 1 mana of any color. And you'll notice that's net neutral on the tap and untap, right? The only issue is you need to have another reanimate spell to bring Yurlok back once you've given everyone infinite Jund to kill them, which didn't really make sense. But I do want to note that that is kind of a cute interaction you can do with Pilla-Palla, Bogarden, Dragonheart, and Necrotic Ooze. Just another fun line of play with those cards. Living Plane, Blasting Station, Turn Timber. Yeah, that's something you can do to kill the lands. Crazy Games, remember to skip draw? Yeah, that was just the one time. That was just the one. Mind you, the Final Fortune really got me hyped. Not that I needed any more cards than what I had in my hand, but I did top deck a Lightning Bolt, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I also gave myself one less card than I should have, by the way. Because during that end step, I could have just cast the Final Fortune with full hand and then clean up, obviously, discard down to 7. I'd mucked that up. I actually started with one less card that final turn than I should have. And honestly, I should have kept a land as well, and that would have been the 7th card. But I kept 2 forms of interaction. The hand was stupid. Whether I drew that card or not wouldn't have stopped me from winning, but I'm glad you remember that happening. I definitely forgot about Necropotence, though. Or at least I always forget that effect on Necropotence. Especially in the moment. Like, if you're just trying to win the game. If it went around the table and came to me, I would not have forgotten. I hope not. I think Seeker is fine to stay just because the floor is burning 6 and tons of mana with Yurlok. Just take out Rings. Well, Rings is the catalyst for... I get what you're saying. Rings is the catalyst for that to being a meaningful combo. Okay, so I'm going to close this poll out now because the next poll I want to ask is about Zoncha. A very real question that I want to ask you is, do we keep Zoncha in the list? So just to refresh your memory, Zoncha, Sleeper Agent. For 1 generic Rakdos. As she enters the battlefield, an opponent of your choice gains control of it. Zoncha attacks each combat if able, and can't attack its owner or planeswalker its owner controls. You give your opponents a way to use the resource you're giving them, the Jund. But Zoncha's controller loses 2 life, and you draw a card. Any player may activate this ability. So this is an interesting way to get people to damage out said player. Do you like Zoncha, Silent T, in this deck? And I'll float that for you guys right now. So let me see here. Why are we cutting Seeker Rings? What's the substitution? Seeker Rings is fine, Tony. It's just that if we're being honest, the cleaner combo, the quicker line of play is to just go for Grinding Station, Underworld Breach, which makes me think that we should also add Unmarked Grave, if I'm being honest. My God, I just keep adding cards. We'll add Unmarked Grave to the sideboard really quick. Maybe we incorporate that as well. But that is technically the cleaner line of play. It's nice having a backup, though, with Seeker. And by the way, baseline Seeker, I totally agree. Seeker is good. We were really close there, but it appears that we all want to keep Seeker of Skybreak. Well, a larger majority of us want to keep Seeker of Skybreak with Rings of Bright Hearth. So we'll do it. We shall do it. But next up for you guys, I'd love to know your thoughts on Zancha. Is it something that you want to keep? Full tutor package. Seal, Demonic, Vampire. Yep, they're all in there. Should be. The only issue with Zancha is that it gives your opponents a card each time they activate. I know. It's a little too group hug. Still, I'd like to know your thoughts. It's cute. It eliminates one opponent. Give it to the proactive player, but you are doing a lot for your opponents. Zancha underperformed for me in high powered. She always feels better in cEDH though. That's interesting. How many cards to cut? We have 11 to cut. Christopher McGinnis. If her ability cost 2 rather than 3, I think it would be better since opponents wouldn't be able to sink all your yeah, I get that. If it cost 2 though, I think it would be almost too abusable, right? It would almost be too much. I would be incentivized to just draw. If it was 2 mana, that's as good as Atlas, right? That's as good as endless Atlas. Like pay 2, draw a card. That's pretty good. This is okay. It's situationally okay, but if it was 2, it would be really good in my opinion. Almost too good for your opponents. Too good of a benefit to give them. We're gonna keep Villas. We're not gonna keep the Necrotic Ooze line of play. We've given ourselves better options. Those are very costly. Unfortunately, I don't want to do that to myself. Also, if we're trying to rely on it ad nauseum, I think there are better things to do because we have Seeker, we have Witherbloom, and we have. Effectively, what was the other one? Underworld Breach Grinding Station into Witherbloom and the Seeker combo. I think that's it. Seeker. Where is Seeker? Oh, I'm sorry. She's right there. Jeez Louise. I'm like, what the hell's my other combo piece? By the way, there's some cute combos we could do with Dockside Extortionist to make infinite mana, by the way. But it would only be bad for us. I think Dockside by itself is probably enough. By the way, I'm going to close that poll out right at 6:40. No Toxic Deluge. We could add Toxic Deluge if we want. She's better in more political-based decks. I feel like because we're in because we have red. If we're trying to board wipe, I almost feel like things like this are slightly better with the mana generation we have. The Rolling Earthquake, like that might be the main board wipe strategy we rely on. I also think that Fire Covenant is really good, and I meant to put that in this list. I like Fire Covenant just a little bit more than Toxic Deluge, and I'm gonna add Fire Covenant real quick. Wow, there are some staple cards. There are a lot of staple cards in these colors, and we're not even using the entire tutor suite of green. We're not using the entire tutor suite that Jun has to offer. Let me just state that first and foremost. I think that we're trying to pile on certain synergies for Yurlok, coupled with a lot of combos, in my opinion. But I'm sorry, Acerak is the other combo. That's why she was up for contention. Because we're using Acerak with Aluren, and we've got this many cards to really leverage Aluren. I feel like Seeker of Skybreak is probably more in line with what this deck wants to do, and it makes me think that we can dump the Acerak, although I really love the idea of playing Acerak in this list. And that's the main reason I did it. So we're going to do, we need to take out one combo, if I'm being honest with you, and we're going to take out the Witherbloom. The Witherbloom is obviously the most damning, right? If we do this to ourselves and we fail, it's bad. But Chain of Smog coupled with Underworld Breach is not a bad thing, right? That's why I like it. And I feel like Acerak, if you're going to build this list after we're done here, Acerak is the lesser combo between Witherbloom, Chain of Smog, as opposed to Acerak, Aluren. Ah, damn it. I got to go for the right play. I'm sorry. I wanted this to be an Aluren list with Acerak, but I honestly think that just based off the synergy we have with our Underworld Breach, that this makes more sense. And like I said, in just a minute, I'm going to close that poll out. So give me your opinion on Zancha. We still need to cut 7 cards, so maybe it makes sense to get rid of her. Dark Tutelage, Necropotent, Sylvan, these are all good things. Obviously, we want all of these things. We have Autumn's Veil, Avoid Fate, Dark Ritual, Emerald Charm, and Tomb. Pyro, red. Vamp Tutor, Veil of Summer. I almost feel like, I don't know if we're posing a real threat. If I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, I don't think we need that much protection. So Autumn's Veil can be cut. I don't see us being the main target of attacks. And if we are, we've got every single reroute because Bolt Bend works with Yurlok, Ricochet Trap, obviously Deflecting Swat works with Yurlok, and Imp's Mischief is just a better card than Autumn's Veil in my opinion, even if it costs one generic more. I don't think we need Rakdos Charm, despite the number of strategies that rely on graveyards. I think that Rakdos Charm can probably be taken out, but I also think that Rust Rebirth is not really great in here. Rust Rebirth would be trying to hit our Seeker of Skybreaker Witherbloom Apprentice, by the way. Like, if you're wondering targets, we're gonna, if someone's eliminating an opposing commander, Najila, I've mentioned her already, Savala, right, 3 CMC or higher, then we can use a Rust Rebirth to push our wind creatures out, which is not a bad idea. And we'll just get a Dark Confidant. So I'll probably want to get rid of the Rakdos Charm for now. I do think that we need the Fire Covenant with the Rust Rebirth, like any removal we have, Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trap, all this stuff. These are going to be very good with the Rust Rebirth. We don't have that much creature destruction here. So we'll be relying on Rust Rebirth off of probably someone else's removal, if I'm being honest. And or our board wipe that is in our sorcery suite. But let's go ahead and close that poll out. I'm pretty sure it's time. And I'm not even sure that poll made entire sense. Did it just say yes, no to Zoncha, question mark? Is keeping Zoncha a yes? We should have clarified. We really should have clarified. Mana Reflection doubles the mana your opponents get too. I like Pyroclasm, Rough and Tumble. I agree with Ruben there. She's better in more political based decks. I feel like Yurlok doesn't quite work. Too many possible negatives. So here's the thing, guys. Zoncha got 51% yes, 48% no, and I can see where there might be some confusion. So I'm going to make the executive decision in stating that I think you meant that we remove Zoncha. Is that what I said live? I agree. Take that as you will. You may put Zoncha back in your list, but we do need to remove a handful more cards. I think I added Tainted Pack. I don't like giving opponents a way to use Yurlok mana. Yeah, I get that. It's too cute. It was something I added because we were. It was something I was chatting with on the with the patrons on the Discord, and I forget who I was speaking to, but it was like a funny synergy. So I just want to add it in case we wanted to play with it. But oddly enough, that poll was close. I think Torment of Hailfire is probably going to come out in a second. If I'm being honest with you. I'm probably going to get rid of Torment of Hellfire. Okay. Let's do that. And there's no real reason for Unmarked Grave unless we want to go for our LED and or a Grinding Station. There is a reason for Unmarked Grave, isn't there? All right. What I also like about Green Sun Zenith, what I like about having the Witherbloom Apprentice and Seeker of Skybreak is that the tutors that we are incorporating to field, at least one of them, is able to leverage it for Wind Creature, which is very good. As much as I love Faithless Looting, I do think it is something that we need to sideline for now, particularly if we're going to go the egg route, which is what it looks like. We do need to cut 3 more things, and I want to test this at least 2 or 3 times with you guys to make sure that this is all up to snuff. And then obviously we can come to some general conclusions here. I think that we probably want to get rid of... Oh man, I love card draw, so I don't really want to get rid of anything like that. Sword is a little weak. Sword is oddly a little weak right now. Not even oddly. It's very rough unless you're in a dedicated Voltron list. Mask of Memory is also just a little weak. These are just things we can filter our mana into, but sadly they're not doing enough for me. I do think that between the two, Chromatic Star is easily the better. I like the fact that Zephyr Boots can work on the cast. Same with Mask of Memory. Here's what I want to do. All right. I think my dream of eggs is dead. I think my dream of eggs is dead. All right, that's what I want to do. All right, let's try this out. I'd cut Torment 2. I'd run the Stitcher supplier line over the LED station. I like LED and station because they don't require any sort of mana color from us. Also, we're able to better leverage any color. It's not even LED. Again, LEDs are not really a huge part of this, provided you have any form of fast mana. Like, it's our Mox Opal. It's our Mox Opal we keep recasting from our graveyard. We can make any color mana from that. Mana Crypt, we make any colored mana from that. And they sort of just pull into the solution you need. If you need to filter color, then you can use the Chromatic Star that we've left in here. And or you can use our, the LED that will happen to make its way into our graveyard as well. But there are other ways to make color here. I hope. We did take out a lot of eggs. That's okay. Let's work this out. The Allurin in the title there is just it's moot now. It's not even necessary. All right, so is this a good hand? Well, we've got one of our combo creatures. We've got a nice little stacks piece. We've got a draw utility. We've got a way to push Yurlok out by turn 2 minimum. There's no real great turn 1 play here, but let's just keep this and see what happens. I'm curious. We're gonna go ahead and get a. Just looking at our hands, we're gonna go ahead and get a Badlands Bayou. I'm gonna shuffle it up. And next turn. Oh, I'm sorry. Zephyr Boots. Next turn. Okay. And now we'll go ahead and drop the mountain and we'll go for Yurlok. Why not? Okay. Boop. Boop, boop. Got Commander mana floating. That's okay. Didn't need it. Next turn. Before we play the land, the idea was that we would do Yurlok to get Zephyr Boots onto the battlefield and equip it. But as we have this situation here, like, Yurlok is vigilant, so it's like why I wanted the Mask of Memory, why I kept the Zephyr Boots over the Chromatic Sphere Star, is that Yurlok is vigilant. I know it seems, well, it's kind of negligible. It's almost why I wanted the sort of Fire and Ice still, but at least Zephyr Boots and our Mask of Memory, we can play and equip on the same turn with just Yurlok mana. In this instance, it feels weird, but I kind of just want to equip this and go for it and see what we draw into. If you guys don't remember, whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, then discard a card. So, this might give us a different land to play with. Obviously, you're sort of pushing it. It would make more sense to just play the force and keep the mountain open so you have some form of interaction. So let's just say that's what we need to do. We will attack here, and then we'll draw a card, discard a card. I'm glad I did that. The card we're going to discard is probably... Damn, don't I wish I had Villas in my hand. I really want to cast Dark Tutelage next turn because that's the way this game is going right now. We're probably going to get rid of the Witherbloom Apprentice at this point. Am I mistaken? Nah, that's fine. Okay. Let's say we need to use the Red Elemental Blast off turn. Okay, Sarah. At least we did it. But also we could do it this way, unless in case we really wanted to. I'm forgetting that we have Yurlok as a thing right now. As a matter of fact, let's just do that. I mean, we could play the Witherbloom Apprentice right now. Is that weird? Let's backpedal a little bit. So the thing we discard, it's either we hardcast an opposition agent right now, or we hardcast a Dark Tutelage right now. I totally forgot that Yurlok is mana. So let's do the Witherbloom Apprentice. It's fine. We've got other combos in our deck. But we'll do this, and we can just put Dark Tutelage down. I don't know. Defense is down. Why not? That's what we lose life off of, nothing. And this is what we draw per turn. Okay. Move to combat. We'll draw. And we will discard. So, kind of wish I just hard casted opposition earlier. I mean, you see the line of play, right? So what we want to do is go opposition agent, any body. Opposition agent, Diabolic Intent to kill that body, get Underworld Breach. I mean, honestly, we can get rid of Yurlok at this point. We just got LED. We want to hold on to the LED. We want to hold on to this. We have not played our land per turn. Let's just get rid of Sylvan Library and go balls to the wall. Let's see if we can finish this off right here. So we'll go ahead and tap here, hard cast the opposition agent. Sure. I'm sorry. I'm off that. We don't want to do that anymore. Let's just kill Yurlok. What am I talking about? No matter what, we're not really going to need her or the Sylvan Library if we're successful here. But we do want the mana from Yurlok for something else. So we will tap here to play Diabolic Intent. We will kill Yurlok, leaving ourselves with red for the red Elemental Blast, or the red for the Underworld Breach. Okay. Doing that leaves us with just the red. We can play the Mana Confluence. We will play the Underworld Breach. We'll tap the Forest. We'll use the red Elemental Blast to insist that the Underworld Breach sticks. Okay, cool. Now we'll break this. We don't need to do it yet, honestly, because that Bayou's staring right at us. We'll do Entomb, and we'll do Entomb for Grinding Station, right? And then I'll show you how we can make this work for us. So we'll now break this for blue mana. Why not? We've got 3 blue. We drop the opposition agent. At this point, you would just go like such. We don't have any other 0 CMC things in the graveyard aside from the LED, but when I saw the LED, this is why we want it. We're not going to make any mana doing this, but we're going to do first... Oh, we got the Jeweled Lotus. We'll exile this, we'll exile the Sylvan Library, we'll exile Yurlok back to the command zone, sure. To recast the Grinding Station from our graveyard for 2 mana, right? We're using our blue that we have floating. Of course, we needed blue for this. But we'll go ahead when it enters the battlefield, and we'll sacrifice Zephyr Boots first, right? By the way, this is an interesting interaction. It's not something I commonly do, but in case you're wondering, Grinding Station triggers itself, right? When an artifact comes into play, you may untap Grinding Station. So when I cast it here, it sees itself. So before that untap trigger resolves, I'm also getting rid of my Zephyr Boots to grind myself even more. And why Grinding Station is so good with Underworld Breach is the fact that I can leverage it to push as many things in my graveyard as possible. And this is why I kind of like it over Stitcher Supplier, in case you were wondering. But does that, untaps itself, and then we'll go ahead and cast... let's see here. We'll just cast the Lion's Eye Diamond. So at this point, you just cast Lion's Eye Diamond until you find something else that will net you mana. You'll convert that mana you're getting into well, whatever solution you want to win with. I think we kept our Witherbloom Apprentice, right? So at this point, we're just trying to find Chain of Smog, and we have 1, 2, 3, and we can just cast... we would never cast Seed Time now, but if they used a blue spell to stop us, as with the red Elemental Blast being cast, then, you know. But we got 9, 10, so we've got 3, 6, 9, 3 cast. So we can honestly cast Lion's Eye Diamond and use it for the mana necessary to do the thing. You probably shouldn't have said blue, but we're going to pull into Mana Crypts, use the Mana Crypt for mana, pull into any other resource that's going to give us colored mana at this point. LED should probably generate black. We're either going for Witherbloom Apprentice at this point or Seeker of Skybreak. Those are the only ones. It's just Witherbloom Apprentice, Chain of Smog at this point. I forget. Let's look really quick. But that's a Yurlok game right there. Almost in the bag. It would be nice to have an Arcane Signet. I'm not going to lie to you. So I am just going to add Arcane Signet. It's also really nice to just have Aetherflux Reservoir if you're going to try to go for this combo. But we'll go ahead and add Arcane Signet, and we'll go ahead and add Aetherflux Reservoir to the sideboard. But that could be the alternative win con, so that your cast add up to victory, right? Like when you're just using LED to find the Mana Crypts, to find Aetherflux Reservoir, your cast will add up to the win. Also, you could just crack LED for black, use the black to do the Entomb, get the Aetherflux Reservoir right on the board, or any sort of fast mana to get the mana going to make the cast you need to make. At any rate, I'm just going to check in with you guys before I do one more game. Obviously, I wanted to go ahead and live edit this right quick. It's in the list. It's in the list. Conqueror's Flail is in the list, yes. Mayhem Devil Corvold. We have better... that's a thing you can do, but I think we have better setup here. We have a better setup here for what we're doing. I think that we can probably avoid Corvold. Especially if we're trying to ad nauseum. We don't really want big old things like that Villas. And to be perfectly honest with you, I never really felt like I was hurting for draw. That was that particular hand. But I am thinking that I could probably get rid of Villas. I'm not really feeling it. This is fine. This is weird, actually. Wait up. Where's the okay. So our win cons again, no Acer Act anymore, but we have Witherbloom Apprentice, Seeker of Skybreak. I almost feel like Lightning Greaves are probably essential, the way this is shaking out. For the Seeker, right? You would want to give Seeker and haste enable her so she could work on turn. By the way, this isn't bad. Like the mana we're getting from Yurlok is helpful. I don't think that I'm high on Bloom Tender. I mean, like look at our curve. Like how much mana do we need, right? Our top end is 5, and that's ad nauseum. It's not like we're playing with. If we were playing some sort of Thrasios build, I would feel more of a need for Bloom Tender. I almost feel like we can do that and just put Aetherflux Reservoir in, and I'm happier with that. So Seeker of Skybreak is the thing you can do. Witherbloom Apprentice is the thing you can do. Is Chain of Smog back on the list? Okay. And then obviously Aetherflux Reservoir, as I've illustrated there or had mentioned, is something you can do. So let's go ahead and take another swing here. I have used Moxfield. I don't like it as much as Tapped Out. If you kept the Witherbloom, you could have won by... yeah. So, yes, Ruben, the issue with going for Witherbloom there without Underworld Breach is that knowing that I had the Pyro or Red Elemental Blast in my hand was knowledge that my opponents didn't know. If I Chain of Smog myself, they're not going to interact with me while I am copying and Chain of Smogging myself. They'll wait till my hand is gone and then tackle me. They'll stop me then. Obviously, going into LED, playing through those lines, that's a separate scenario. When we did the cast for Underworld Breach, that's when we needed the Red Elemental Blast, or Pyro. I forget which one it was. That was the better play line because Breach gives us options that were previously cast. Whereas Chain of Smog is you're dead in the water. So going for the solution with Underworld Breach is the catalyst. So it's almost like having Ad Nauseam, right? Underworld Breach Grinding Station, think of it as a catalyst. It's not a win, per se, but it will get you the win, right? In much the same way that a Grixis list is going to abuse Underworld Breach, Brain Freeze. So you can, and not to say that you're wrong for wanting to go for Chain of Smog, if you did that, if you cast Witherbloom Apprentice and I see you going for Chain of Smog, I will wait till you've emptied your hand to stop you, right? Let's try this again. We have Witherbloom Apprentice again. I don't hate this hand, but it's very slow. This is an okay hand. Why is this an okay hand? Is that we can... okay, here's why this is an okay hand. Badlands, Mana Crypt, Dark Tutelage. Now we'll wait for them to play out their creatures, whatever sort of value package they're rocking. Rolling Earthquake's going to be great at just decimating whatever's played, and we don't really have many creatures in this deck. I think we had 14? 15? Not including Yurlok? Something like that? But we'll go ahead and draw for a turn. We lose 2 life for the Dark Tutelage, and then Windswept Heath. So at this point, we're probably just going to want to go for another one of our dual lands. I think in this instance, we have the Badlands. I think I don't know what our color pie looks like. It looks like black is more important. No matter what we go for, we're probably going to go for the Bayou. We're going to go for the Bayou. Okay, so we'll go for Bayou. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Bayou to the battlefield. And we don't have the mana for Yurlok yet. This is where you need the Arcane Signet. This is where you need the Fellwar Stone. This is where you need any sort of 2CMC rock to like start powering through plays. But getting Dark Tutelage out wasn't bad. As you can see, we have a Gamble and we have a Demonic Tutor. So if I'm being honest with you, again, Underworld Breach, LED, kind of a thing. And you mostly need LED again in these situations to dump your hand because we're not able to breach anything with just one card in our graveyard. However, I do want to play a slightly slower game here and control the board. Let's just say we control the board with this. Let's go ahead and eliminate whatever might be on the board, and then we can pass, and I think that's fine. You could also go for Dalthy Voidwalker, but let's just pretend that this is getting rid of whatever setup has been played, and I'm okay with that. Although I gotta say, I almost wish we went for let's play this right. Let's do this right. We're gonna do the Marsh Flats instead. I think it honestly, just looking at this hand, because we didn't have any green elements, the Bayou is fine. I wanted to give myself the other color for our Yurlok, but I do think that the better land, we're still doing the Rolling Earthquake. I just want to give ourselves the option to do the gamble. I want to go for the Blood Crypt instead. I think that makes a little bit more sense. This also gives us Dalthy Voidwalker as well, just the same. But I think this is the better play so far as our land drop is concerned. Anyway, we'll do the Blood Crypt for a gamble. This could be pretty devastating, so I think we want to go for Underworld Breach just to start setting ourselves up. It's better to gamble now where our hand is relatively full. If I roll a 6, I'll re-roll. I rolled a 3. So we get rid of the Windswept Heath. That's okay. Okay, cool. Next turn. Draw for turn. We lose 3 life, and we've Wooded Foothills. How convenient. Is Wishclaw Talisman actually good enough? I do absolutely love the card, but feel it might not be good enough. It's good enough. Wishclaw Talisman is good enough. Here's the thing. You don't really activate Wishclaw Talisman until you actually have a win. Generally speaking, you don't use Wishclaw Talisman until you're ready to win. So you can just put it down and leave it there. And if someone stops it, they stop it, whatever. It's like, it's a tutor waiting to happen, but you're not going to utilize it until you're ready. And as you can see, with Underworld Breach, as I've just described, it's a very broken card. But with Wishclaw Talisman, you can very easily set up an Underworld Breach. Let's just say that we had Yurlok down and I had dropped Wishclaw Talisman a turn prior. It's 1 generic to find anything in my list. I make 3. I make Jund. I can use that 1 generic, let's just say it's either green or black, and keep the mana open for my Underworld Breach, and then have all of my lands, all of my other mana for protection, which might be something that this list wants more of. As you can see, this is kind of the way I think that this list should be piloted. If you're just gearing towards Underworld Breach line of play, you're giving yourself really good odds of being successful with all the mana you're generating. Also bearing in mind that you're giving your opponent's mana, which is pretty shite if we're being honest. Okay. So Yurlok is something that we can definitely do. I don't know if Yurlok makes the most sense. So what we should do is just a Dalthy Voidwalker, lay some hate. Hold Opposition Agent. Is that a what? What did you do? Yeah, Opposition Agent. Okay. So obviously we have a lot of assumptions to make, but around turns 1 to 3, there's a lot of fetches going on. There's a lot of tutoring going on. I don't know, just to give ourselves the least advantage, let's just say that we stop a fetch land and then we have an Opposition Agent down. So we have 2 really great utilities, right? So from them, there's no great way to do this. Let's just say that this is a land. We stole a land, and we can play that on our turn. Okay. I don't need to shuffle. I was about to shuffle my deck. But we just did that, and we'll draw. Hey, didn't lose any life that time. Phyrexian Tower is a little bit of an oddity here. This land base was not tailored for what we are doing, but we'll go ahead and play, I think, the Guy's Cradle instead. This is a weird way to get green. No, I kind of would rather just have like another black source. I feel like black seems to be our bread and butter here. Let's just play their land. What is this land we just took from them? I would say that this is another Badlands, just with the lack of real green utilities. Most of the green that we have in this list is kind of protection. And Witherbloom Apprentice. Let's get it. I don't know. What do you want? That's some sort of land. That's a... How do you... Opposition Agent when you're gold fishing is weird. Let's just go for our own land. Fine. Let's just go for a Bayou. Shuffle up. Thin our list out. Sure. Dalthy Voidwalker is also odd when you're gold fishing. But the general game plan now would be to go for some line of protection. We've been filling our hand up quite a bit with Dark Tutelage. But you would want to do is do like a Demonic Tutor for the LED. Excuse me, Lion's Eye Diamond. This is tricky because I would genuinely suggest that you go Demonic Tutor for some form of interaction, right? I just don't want to do the mental math. Let's just do this right though. Let's just say we go for a Red Elemental Blast. Like we fully suspect that we're gonna get met with a counter here. So we go Demonic Tutor. Let's do it with the Blood Crypt. Whatever. Demonic Tutor for Red Elemental Blast. Then you go to do the Underworld Breach. We've got one generic floating. We'll use the Badlands. Okay. We do get met with some sort of opposition. Cool. We have to do the Mana Confluence. Wow. And did I just learn that in doing this, and this is why I didn't do the math and why I just want to go for Lion's Eye Diamond, if we had Phyrexian Tower down, we could still make this happen. But generally speaking, you want to have some form of protection, because let's just say we need the Red Elemental Blast. If we do this and we resolve Underworld Breach, we don't have Lion's Eye Diamond. That's something I wanted to grab in my library. But the only other spell we could cast from the grave would be a Gamble. But we don't have mana for Gamble. Damn it. This is why this would have been better than the Bayou. Okay, so in hindsight, if you were doing the math and not just rapidly firing off, trying to combo on a live stream, you would just want to do this. But damn, let's just say the Dothy Voidwalker. Let's just say that Dothy Voidwalker got someone's Mana Crypt. Blah, I've never activated Dothy Voidwalker. I get your Mana Crypt. Here's the Mana Crypt. No, I don't want to. This here, that's Mana Crypt. Cool. That's how we do Demonic Tutor. And we'll do Demonic Tutor. We'll get rid of this. And what? Lion's Eye Diamond. Okay. Then we cast Lion's Eye Diamond. We dump our hands using Lion's Eye Diamonds. We get rid of these cards with Lion's Eye Diamonds, activating it to do. There we go. Triple black. Can we win here? Let's see. This roundabout way, having to do it the way I just did. I think we can. I hope so. We just want to go into Aetherflux Reservoir, right? But we use Lion's Eye Diamond from our hand. We dumped our hand. Why did I exile things? Did I exile additionally without... I'm very hardly keeping track. We just did 3 black. We're down to 1 black. We're doing Demonic Tutor. I've cast how many spells from my graveyard? Just Demonic Tutor so far, right? Yeah, just Demonic. So this is Demonic Tutor again. We're going to get Grinding Station. We're going to cast Grinding Station only after doing this. So, no, 1, 2, 3. Lion's Eye Diamond. Oh my god, we don't have enough mana. We were fucked from the start. We tried, though. We really tried. And you can let me know if my sequencing was off there. I'm sure it was, but you get the idea. You get what I was trying to do, okay? That's this version of Yurlok. Is it competitive? I don't know. We had an interesting conversation at the start of this video about Commander being competitive. And it really just depends on the competence of the player and the nature of the combo you're relying on. And as it turns out, when you're relying on a thing that leverages just having cards in your graveyard with a bunch of free rocks, it's actually really good, right? Underworld Breach is very good as a combo piece. We never cast Yurlok in that instance. The first instance we did. I would say that it was better when we had Yurlok down. But then again, I don't really know what my opponents had in store for me if I gave them Jund. So that's tricky. I think this list is fine. I really don't hate it. Focus on your turns. Proper sequencing to get the job done accurately. But this can do it. And I just want to tune in with you guys, make sure that I didn't miss anything, any of your thoughts. I like this deck. I'm used to seeing more stacks builds with Yurlok, but I've always been a more proactive player myself. Yeah, I don't know if Yurlok... I see Yurlok as a good stack expander too, and I can understand why you would want to add taxes, because if you're giving them Jund, then you want to dominate how they play that Jund mana. But it's tricky with this particular brew because, unlike a Belby, which I've compared this to this whole time, you know, generic is less usable than colored mana. It's just far less usable. And yes, you can get gobs of generic mana off of an opposing Belby, but giving someone Jund is pretty devastating sometimes. However, I think Yurlok can get there very easily. Jund is a good part of the color pie. And I wasn't even leveraging half the shit that Jund is known for. Like people, you know, docksiding and trying to get all the mana and then reanimating that dockside. No, just shoot for the thing. Shoot for the thing. if you've gotten good card quality effects on the battlefield, like we did Dark Tutelage there, turn 1, you'll give yourself enough cards, or at least in this instance, almost enough cards to get the job done. But as I do with all of these videos, I'd like to thank our Patreon community for contributing to the channel. And of course, all of you guys, you lovely, lovely people that sent in super chats during this video. I really appreciate it. You guys have no idea how far that goes to help the production here and help me out doing these weekly. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in to all of these weekly live streams, particularly for the month of August. If you've been tuning in for the weekly gameplay, I appreciate you showing up. They've been a fun time, and I cannot wait to continue doing Brew Wars lives into the future. Again, if you want to play on the show, if you're a member of the Patreon, be sure to join the Discord. All of the games, voice is handled over there, and of course, games played over on Spell Table. But I've been having such a great time with that, and again, I really do appreciate you guys showing up for this, because it wouldn't really be entertainment if there wasn't an audience for it, and this channel has just been a blast. So doing these weekly has been so fun. Yurlok, man. Yurlok, though, I think we got there. I don't know if we did enough, but I think we got there. And I hope that you guys can take this and mold this into something even better for Jund. But again, my name is Patrick Marlett, and happy brewing, babies.